All right, so we are recording. How you doing, Speed?
Awesome. Yeah, it's great to finally be here, Jake. I've been a fan of the channel for a while, so yeah, thanks for having me.
It's great to have you on. I'm a fan of yours, your channel, and for those who don't know you yet, for my channel, I encourage people to go and check out your videos. I really like your perspectives, the energy that you bring to the videos. It's just a lot of fun. And I was telling you before we turn on the camera that it reminds me of um, what I think I felt like when I was first starting collecting. And you've been collecting, and I'm gonna let you tell your story a bit, but for about 9 months, you've sort of been really in it and
Yep.
creating content and all this sort of stuff. And I think it's almost like I'm vicariously living
Sure,
again
sure.
through my like beginning journey and like the fun it is like getting into it a little bit
Oh,
through
it's
your
so
content.
fun.
Yeah, so if you can tell my audience just a little bit about you, about your Pokemon journey so far, what got you back into it, sort of the usual like starting interview,
Sh- Sure,
to
yeah.
orient the audience.
Yeah, it was so random. I don't feel like I have like some great story, but I've been a Pokemon fan my whole life. But I'm 21 right now, so I started Emerald. I didn't start, what is that? It's sad. I don't even know the names of the first games. Like I forget them. I think it's what, yellow, blue. Oh boy.
Yeah, red, blue, and yellow. Yeah.
There you go. There you go. Those ones. So I got in a bit late, but yeah, I got back into Pokemon cards about 9 months ago. I think it was around the time a lot of people did, maybe a couple months beforehand. And I was just fascinated. The first packs I bought were 10 evolution packs for $50, which I actually ripped myself off on because at the time the booster box was 150. But I pulled the Mega Charizard. I'm like, wow, this is a $30 card. That's crazy. And a lot of money later, here we are, and it really is it's a lot of fun. Like this whole community and the idea of buying cards and selling cards, flipping, investing it's really fascinating. So yeah, it's awesome.
What are your favorite parts of it so far?
I think I'm a big flipper, so like especially right now, like I've been really into flipping. Like I'm a bit even right now, I'm a bit cautious about investing with like the prices, but I love grading and I love flipping. Like I think the most money I've spent in Pokemon in general is express grading with PSA, like a ton of cards. But that was super fascinating. The first thing I did, got really lucky, but it really started my hype, was for $200 in a Facebook group. I bought a base unlimited Charizard, came back a 7, sold it at the peak, got crazy lucky, sold it at the peak for 1,500, and I was hooked. I was like, holy, this is awesome. $1,000 for that. And so that, yeah, that's where it started. And that, like, the flipping, like just the ability to be connected to something. Like I think what's so awesome about Pokemon is we get to like spend money and potentially make money on something that's like part of our lives. Like I love the Pokemon games, Pokemon shows, Pokemon Showdown, the online game, and now the cards. So like that's just really cool to me, being able to like incorporate what you love with investing. Cause like I just don't like stocks because I'm like, I don't care about Tesla personally. So
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's an interesting conversation, and for people to think about too. It's like, how do you kind of the entanglement, we could say, between the love of the making money versus even just the love of like investing and flipping and being a
yeah.
salesman, which has its own appeal and its own fun. If you like negotiating, if you like hunting for good deals, getting things at a bargain, selling them for higher, feeling like you're right and you're
Oh yeah.
smart, right? That's a whole thing that can be enjoyable. And then another part that can be enjoyable is owning the cards, looking at the cards, collecting, like your connection to the actual pieces, whether or not they go up in value or not, or sell them to other people. For me, rarity is exciting, like owning things that are difficult to find, or I don't see a lot, and being able to like track those down and complete, like the completionist feeling of completing things,
That's
like
cool.
all these different elements. Yeah.
You know
So
what's Sorry to cut in. Yeah, no,
yeah,
that's always something I've found fascinating about the Pokemon community. How a lot of people are attached to rarity. Personally, I've never been attached to rarity at all. So maybe that's something we talk about
yeah.
later on or now. But yeah, I actually I don't know. Maybe is that like just a human trait? What do you think?
Well, I think I think that it comes from a few places. I think one is going to be like that, um, from the financial investing perspective, it's a supply and demand thing of like,
Sure.
if there are only 100 of an item, all you need is 100 people to want that item for there to be a home for each of those items. And if you have hundreds of thousands of an item, you're going to need a lot more people to want that, or it's going to be worthless because they'll just be free,
Okay, yeah.
around. So I think from that financial perspective, investing perspective, that's a piece. But in terms of the actual rarity causing people to want something more, I think that's also true, because I think it makes you feel like, haha, I have this thing that other
Hmm.
people don't have or can't have, and you feel, I don't know if it's a sense of superiority or something like
Maybe
that.
it is, which I think is fine. You know.
It's more of a sense of challenge and I think accomplishment.
Okay.
I think that I'm trying to think of what it's like for me, because I don't think that I think that if I felt that, it would make me uncomfortable, actually. If I felt like that it was that for me, because that's like, to me, such a sin that would be like a really like I might feel those
Sure.
feelings, but it would cause a conflict in me, and then I probably wouldn't get as much enjoyment out of it. So I
Right,
think
right.
for me, a lot of it came from that place of, I like setting really difficult goals and and doing really hard things. And we talked a little bit before we started about, you talked about like video game playing. I also was like the number one player in a game, and
Oh, really? What game?
yeah, and became obsessed. Tribal Wars. It's like, it's not like a,
Never heard of it. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
it's no, it's not. It's like a few 100,000 crazy people who like have been playing this game that has no graphics forever.
Nice.
But I play in a lot of different games, and I always try and
Become the best.
become the best,
Sure, I get
set
that. Yeah.
these like high challenges. When I played chess, I was playing like hundreds of chess games a day, losing like most of the games, just like grinding it out, trying to get better.
I get that, yeah, because that's
Yeah,
what I'm at that place too. Like I love losing, like for whatever reason. I feel like is actually just like, I don't know. Your parents have to kind of like teach you to be like that, otherwise
yeah. And so I think
it's
there are
weird.
people like that who like the chase of that and the experience of that. I think there are other people in Pokemon who are going to be probably turned off by that and just kind of want to collect cool shiny cardboard and
Sure,
not be so
yeah, yeah.
competitive. And I have
I
friends who are just not that, like, not nearly as competitive as me.
I do too. Yeah.
And so I think that for them, they're not gonna respond to that. In fact, they can be turned off by that type of like competitiveness to get those high
Yeah.
end cards.
You know what's funny? I think that mentality is like why there's feels like there's such a divide between this like this the collector and the investor right now.
Mm.
Like even recently, I'm sure you've seen like some of the recent videos, like Frosted Boo's video.
Yeah.
I'm not here to speak drama. I don't like that stuff. But like, yeah, I mean, like to me, it's like it's this mentality of like, oh, just enjoy it, just enjoy life. And then there's these people who are just like, I need to destroy life, like be the best. And not in that negative way. I shouldn't have said it like that. Now it sounds like really bad, but no, just like it's like, oh, I like the challenge. I feel rewarded when I complete the challenge, which is fine. And the other side is also fine, which is enjoy what you have. Like you don't have to go for all the crazy stuff, enjoy it. Like, but both are fine. And sometimes it frustrates me a little bit that they clash so much rather than like just understanding that we're different,
Yeah.
perhaps.
I think when you're really competitive, you have to be wary of the negative effect that can have on other people. And the fact that you can like, that can turn into like greed or gluttony, where you take more than you need, or you get. So one thing that like practice that I do is like, I'll become the best, and then I'll like chill. I don't know if you ever feel
Oh,
that
really?
way, where I don't feel, once I've done that, the need to stay it. And this is something that I think has served me well, because I think that that's not the case for a lot of people. It's like once they get to the top, they can feel like actually a real sense of
Right.
depression because they can't go further.
Yeah, it's a
And yet,
classic celebrity story.
yeah, and yet they still feel the need to be at the top. My experience so far in my life has been, once I've gotten there, it's like I've almost like crossed it off my like bucket list in my head, and then I do like the next hobby or the
Right.
next
So
mountain, if that makes sense. I don't know
yeah,
what it's
so
like
you,
for you.
you love the process. Yeah. Like
Yeah,
for whatever reason. I get that. I don't
yeah,
maybe that's rare though. I don't feel like to be honest, not
yeah.
trying to like, but I don't feel like most people are like that, which is interesting. So it's cool.
So for you, you feel like once you got, and to give everyone a little bit of context, what game and where were you this number one player, and what
Oh,
was your story with
sure.
just to introduce who you are and your psychology to the
You
audience?
know, you know, so it's funny, it's funny, like, so I play this game called Dota. I'm sure a
Yeah.
lot of people watching this are much more familiar with the game League of Legends. League of Legends actually came from Dota. So there's that for any context for anyone. But Dota's this MOBA, it's a 5v5. And for a short period of time, I was ranked 50. And it actually still haunts me to this day that I was never rank 1. And like, I actually still try to play the game semi-competitively just because like I wake up, I'm like, I need to be rank 1. Like, why am I not the best?
Yeah.
But yeah, and now I have slowed down, and I teach people how to play the game. I try to help others get to that point and reach that point. So I've always come from a competitive background, like early age, played a lot of travel sports, a lot of competitive sports, then got into competitive games, and everything's always been competitive. You know, I've an older brother who I compete with, and so Pokemon was kind of the same thing. You know, even when I got into Pokemon, I'm like, how do I make the most money? And I actually don't see it as a point from greed, because I make the money and I do nothing with it.
Yeah.
Like I don't think I even like the money per se. I like the idea of doing the things that enable me to get the money, and there's so many ways to do it in Pokemon, which is I think really what's fascinating, and I think draws a lot of people in. Like, you can hold long term, you could flip.
Yeah. And I think that kind of to your point, I think what you're saying a little bit, and for me, you know, it makes me feel like I'm smart or like I'm competent or I'm capable if I make a lot of money, that the money is a symbol for that I've achieved something, rather than being super attached to the money itself or what I could do with the money or those sorts of things. But I think that, you know, having a lot of money too can be
it's great. Yeah.
It can be great depending on what you do with it, or it can be its own sort of challenge and anxiety producing thing.
Yeah, but like, no, I think like, hopefully for me, for myself, like I hope if I do make a lot of money, which my goal is to, that I will eventually be able to share it with people, which I know is like the very political thing to say, but like I actually do feel that way.
Yeah.
You know, like when I played RuneScape when I was younger, I'm like, I want to make a lot of money so eventually I can go to the place where all the poor people go. Not you know, not to like flex on them, but to like genuinely.
You want to be one of those guys who walks around and drops money and everyone.
Yeah, it's like trade for trade, I'll double your items, and like everyone thinks it's a scam, but then you actually do it, and then it's like, yeah.
So that's kind of like me, you know, because I think what I was saying too is when you get to that top, giving it away or feeling like I don't need to stay at the top. Because
sure.
Some people have an impulse when they're at the top to stomp on people's throats even more when they're at the top to stay at the top. And I think some people, when they have excess or a lot, they have a feeling of like, I really want to give this away and I want to make other people's lives better. So I think that's a very real thing that I've seen in different people.
Sure. Yeah. And honestly, what's funny is I don't even look down upon the people who use it on themselves. I actually think it's fine.
Yeah.
I've always had that mentality, but I know that's where I don't know, that's for another day, but
yeah, I mean, it's definitely a interesting moral discussion. So, but I think it goes to kind of the point we were talking about, or I was saying in the beginning of like, I think it's part of why I probably really liked your channels. I saw myself in you a little bit, and that sort of competitiveness and that intensity, and when wanting to find the deals and enjoying that sort of thing. I think it's why people like probably my channel and like that sort of stuff.
Same, yeah. That's why
we probably have a similar audience, and a lot of these people have similar audiences.
Yeah. I mean, that's probably why we bumped into each other. Absolutely. Like, I mean, that's why I watch your channel. I'm like, oh, this guy is like what I want to be, right? I mean, that's why you watch content a lot of the time. You're like, this is the person I want to be, so I'll watch them. Or like, you know, I want aspects of their life. You see yourselves in them, right? I mean, I think that's why we watch videos a lot of the time. Like Rudy from Alpha Investments, I'll watch like all his videos. I mean, a lot of the time he's saying the same thing. That's not like a downplay on him. It's just like a lot of the time getting to the top level of something is like knowing the fundamentals so well and just executing on them for forever.
Yeah.
But I just love the idea of him, right? Like this guy who just creates content all the time, doesn't care what people think, and it's successful. I just like that idea. So.
Yes, not caring what people think and just doing whatever you want to do for fun does sound really enjoyable. I'm not sure if that's an act a little bit of an act, and
You think so? Okay.
Rudy might be. Well, I don't know. I mean, you know
I think I think
these
you
things
cared
work.
to an extent, right?
It's so hard not to create content if you want to be successful on YouTube or anywhere. Create things for the audience or things that you know
Sure.
people are going to like and watch, and have that be a sort of at the back of your head. I think
Right.
that that's
100%.
tricky. Although I do hear that people do say sometimes, like, I just push that aside. I do what I think is
Sure.
great,
But it's
what I
slower.
enjoy, and then maybe people do like that, and it ends up working out. But
Yeah, usually takes longer though. 100%.
yeah,
It takes longer. Like if you don't talk about McDonald's Pokemon packs, you're not gonna get that 10K view pop off.
yeah. I sit now, and when I think about making videos, I'm literally like, okay, well, I could make this video that's going to get 10,000 views, or I can keep making the same videos I'm making, which I know will continue to get 2,000 to 3,000 views, but I think are like more substantive, less clickbaity,
Sure.
more really what I'm thinking about and what I'm feeling, and stuff that I think isn't being talked about as much or enough in other places, rather than kind of repeating the videos that other people are making. But it's yeah, it's definitely um
It's
there
a
it
tough,
doesn't
yeah,
seem
it's a
to
tough
be easy
dilemma.
to, yeah, and also I repeat myself a lot, and we all repeat ourselves a lot, so it's a challenge trying to figure out how to make better content, good content that people will enjoy. But so another reason and maybe to pull it back to Pokemon,
Sure, yeah, yeah.
and a topic for today that I think will be interesting to talk about, is because you're 21, and because you grew up in with a different generation of Pokemon and got
Yep.
connected to a different generation of Pokemon. I think a good back and forth we can have is going to be sort of, what do you think people your age are interested in collecting? What, why did you think Evolutions was good when some of the older people didn't when you came
Yep.
in? So both getting a sort of younger perspective, but and also a perspective of someone who's coming into the market with fresh eyes. Because I think that what can happen is that people who have been in the hobby 3 years and are maybe around the same age all think a certain way about things.
Yep.
But there's a lot more to this hobby, and there's a lot more people in this hobby than just 30-year-olds, obviously, who have been in it a little bit and are telling people, are the majority of the tastemakers right now.
Sure.
Yeah. So wherever you want to start with that in terms of what
Yeah,
you were.
actually, I just have one question before we start there. How old do you think is the average, let's say a year ago, what was the average age of a Pokemon investor?
I think like the investors are really the high end people. I think that most of them are probably 30 to 35.
Okay.
And then you had some older ones, quite a bit older ones
Sure.
too.
Like Gary.
Like Gary and E. Birdman, some of these other guys. And then you did have a few 40-year-olds that I knew, and definitely some 20-year-olds.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
I think that most of the people were probably, let's say, 28 to 35.
Okay.
But there also can be, at least those were a lot of the ones I was communicating with and were more public. But another thing in Pokemon is there are plenty of people, I'm sure, out there with very sizable collections who are silent.
Oh, 100%.
So
yeah, no, I totally believe that. Yeah, so that is, I think that's like a good point, because yeah, so I'm 21, as we said like multiple times now. But what I was telling Jake before we started this is that when I got into the scene 9 months ago, I was told or found out very quickly that the market practically revolves around Charizard. And at the time, like, that actually shocked me. I was like, why Charizard? I really didn't understand it. Like, I understood Pikachu being like up there, but like Charizard, really, I mean, like, I understand. It was very easy to quickly figure out that this is the original Pokemon that most people are attracted to. It's an obvious reason. But I didn't really get why it was that far ahead. And now, as I've like really been in the scene more and more, I'm like, oh, it's because like the average age of the people who are like putting the money in were like 10 when Pokemon came out, or 14 or 15 when I was 1, right? And so yeah, that's why I do feel like maybe, and I don't like speculating, but maybe certain Pokemon are slept on. Like, for instance, right before this meeting, I was looking at some of the sales numbers for like various Pokemon games, And, Ruby and Sapphire is up there. Sure, red, green, blue, yellow is the top by quite a margin, but, Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald is up there. It's like number 3. Sun and Moon is up there. Black and White is up there. Like these games are very popular. Like when I hear this idea, and it's really funny. I think you brought this up, but when I hear this idea that the current generation playing these games don't like the Pokemon, I just don't get that. Like, why do you think that the way Charizard looks makes him more attractive? Like, is it because he's a lizard? Like, I really like Blaziken. Frankly, I have a lot of Charizards because it's like good for investing and stuff, but I don't care about him at all. Like, at all.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a good argument here of is it the art that people are finding attractive, or is it really just because you played it in the video game, right? And
I'd imagine it's the second.
And I think it's some of both, is what I would posit, because I do.
So? Okay.
Well, I do think that some of because there are modern characters that I have no connection to in video games that I like better than some of the other modern characters because the way they look. And I imagine if I was a kid, and just speculating, that there'd be some that looked cooler. I mean, a fire-breathing dragon, I think, connects to kids in terms of power, strength.
Than
Venusaur. The card at 100 had 100, had higher attack power than anything else.
Sure.
It was in a fighting stance instead of a lot of the other Pokemon that were just like sitting there like, I have no.
Okay.
And also the strength, I think, in the game. So I think it's a lot of things that go into why it clicks for a kid, that like that's the cool one, and trying to analyze that. But I definitely think a huge piece of it is which Pokemon characters you engaged with, like either watching the anime, the story, and or who were your first starters, and which, and that sort of thing. And I think that the market a few years ago, so base set has always been this idea of like the base set is so much more popular and so much more expensive, and people love the Pokemon from base set so much more than all these other generations. And my intuition was sort of like, well, it's not necessarily the rarest set. And I like rarity, and I think we're going to talk about in this conversation is how do we understand and predict demand, because demand is so hard to predict. And we're going to have a discussion of why, because someone who knows Pokemon really well from one generation has a completely different idea of what people are going to like than someone older. And it's so hard to get piece together, because there's so many different people in Pokemon and who have so many different interests, where all those interests are going to go in 5 to 10 years has always been a talking point. And I think it's so important to try and predict it and try and figure it out, of course, because that's the fun. And also
right. That's the fun.
But so one of those issues where if we look at like Magic the Gathering, where the alpha cards, there are only like 1,000 alpha rares, each of the alpha rares, and there's so much less of that original alpha set. And those cards were so powerful in the game. And they've been talked about forever. It's like, why is base set gonna stick, and is the original 151, is that always gonna stick as the most valuable, as the most popular Pokemon? And even if the answer is yes, which it easily could be in part because of it's the first set, and first tend to do the best in all hobbies, and it is extremely rare, and the price points were already so high. And the people with the most money are still, at least for the time being, are still the 30-year-olds and above. All those factors. But even if it does remain the top, will the gap close? That type of thing. And where is that gap right now? And how huge that gap is, right? Between a card like a Charizard First Edition base card to a first appearance card of a third or fourth gen Pokemon, for example. Like these types of things. Just such a huge, massive price gap, which has been closing. And we can talk about that because you follow a lot of these cards that were worth nothing. 2 years ago, there was zero market basically for the Diamond and Pearl era. Zero.
Oh, really? That's crazy.
Zero market. These cards are worth 50 cents, 25 cents.
Yeah.
That people are paying 1,000 for now.
Like the EXs, you're saying?
Like the level X's.
Level
like
X's,
the Diamond and Pearl. So the original Nintendo EX, there was a market there, but it was really mainly for the gold stars. And
Right.
there was some market for the EX original, the Nintendo EX card, the little lowercase EX cards.
Okay.
But there was basically no market for like the regular hollows or the reverse hollows. Those would have been like close to bulk we're talking about.
Yeah. I mean, it's like the current sets, right? No one cares about the hollows.
Yeah. And so then we have to think, so what do you think? What do you think about these middle sets from your 21-year-old perspective, and from your perspective of Blaziken's your favorite Pokemon? And
Yeah.
how many people do you think in Pokemon and people your age do you think that, and when you have conversations with people, what are their favorite Pokemons? Does it vary? Do you feel like it coalesces around something like a Blaziken? What's your perspective?
Yeah. I think if I had to take like one guess, like I had to bet my money and everything, I'd 100%. Even for the long term, I'd probably bet it on base set.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is even now, the kids are still being indoctrinated with Charizard.
Yeah.
Like Charizard is still, I mean, even some of the younger people who take part of my events, it's like they're collecting Charizards
Yeah.
because it's Charizard. And that I actually want to say likely will never stop. I
Yeah.
think there's a good chance that because it was hyped in the beginning, it will just be hyped forever.
Sure.
And the prices will always, first edition base set Charizard being the number one card is going to carry it for literally forever and will make it by far the most expensive card and most expensive Pokemon for forever. I think that's, if I had to guess, that's the most likely. That base set is what people are saying it is. But one thing I did when you brought up that you wanted to potentially talk about this topic, I thought about it, and I do feel like a lot of the starters could, but in particular the starters, like if I had to really guess, like the starters are probably what's undervalued. For instance, like this card. Yeah, this card. The Blaziken, one sold in a PSA 10, I think, for 1,600 recently.
Is that Crystal Guardians? What's that from?
Oh, did they reprint this card? I think they did, right? I think it's EX Ruby Sapphire.
Ruby Sapphire, thank you. I just didn't see. Yeah, there's the set symbol. Thank you.
Yeah. And it's crazy actually, this card has a crease in it, but I bought it for $8. And like for me, you couldn't buy a base set unlimited Charizard for $8 if it had a crease in it ever. It would probably be like $150 now, if I had to guess. And to me, that's like a huge disparity, because for me, I'm willing to actually spend, and this was my biggest mistake in Pokemon. Not actually, because I love the card, but it's a Great Encounters PSA 10. Like it was when everything was going crazy. I'm like, oh my God, I got to get this card. This guy had it listed for 300. I'm like, or 350. I made an offer for 250, instantly accepted. I'm like, it's probably not worth that much. But to me, it is. Like, I actually really do believe that this card one day should be, but I'm very biased, worth more than 250. And maybe there's a lot more of me, like 21-year-olds, who just don't have the money right now to spend that. A quick backstory: I live with my parents. I have a full-time job, and so I have money. I have disposable income, so I can do this type of stuff.
Yeah.
And so maybe there is a lot more people who are super attached to this Blaziken. Like, for instance, I want to spend a lot of money on a Gold Star Torchic at some point. Like, that's one of my current collecting goals. Yeah. And so I think people should keep an eye out on the starters of generations in particular. Like, they're so cheap for how much connection people probably have to them. It's hard for me to say because I feel like all I talk about is Charizard. People talk about is Charizard, but
yeah, I mean, I think that Charizard's definitely overrated, particularly modern Charizards, because I think that it's getting the Charizard tax like some of the original Charizards are, but the original Charizards are actually the ones from our childhood. And so I think that that's going to shift over time.
Oh, okay.
And other Pokemon are going to become more enjoyed, and different Pokemon are going to have different periods where they go up in value more. And the only thing that's stopping certain Pokemon from going up in value is more people believing in it and actually going with what they like and actually buying what they like, over buying what they think, what they're being told that they should like by someone else.
100%. Yeah. It's so funny. Sorry to cut you off, but I have these very young cousins, and even them, it's like, oh, Charizard. they probably haven't played a single game with Charizard in it, you know?
Yeah,
Or
I mean, and again, Charizard's a fire-breathing dragon, and I think's awesome. And
good point. Yeah.
like intuitively, like I believe
Yeah,
that. I
yeah,
don't
yeah.
think it's just like I think that there's a strength to it and an
Okay,
intuitive
yeah.
thing. But like there are a lot of cool Pokemon that I think have a strong identity and
Sure.
strong fighting and abilities and power, these types of stuff. And I think that it's gonna come down, it's all numbers at the end of the day. So it's gonna come down to how many people are in each of these generations and how many more people are going to be 30 to 35-year-olds who are collectors versus your generation, because Pokemon may have been much smaller at that
Sure.
point. And how much
Yep.
smaller was it actually? And
Yeah, that's
these types
tough.
of questions. And then do today, because we're having this mania of 30, 35-year-olds coming back in the hobby and collecting with
Right.
their kids and talking a lot about Charizard, is Charizard going to be the favorite of this new generation?
Right. Could be.
Or are they going to go with the starters in the game, and what that's going to look like? And I have no idea.
Right. It's all the Greninja talk, right? Like Greninja's like that. It's
Sure.
that Pokemon. Everyone's like, "Whoa, Greninja! You know, maybe he's next up."
Because of that
Maybe.
Google poll.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. Maybe, but I just think we're so early in Pokemon that I suggest people think about this stuff as risk. So I think that people assume that the way things are going to be the way things are, that the prices are the way that they are, and that they're always going to be like that. And what I'm here to tell you is that far too early. I think we're in a very unstable, like I think that there's a lot of movement we're going to see up and down in different things. This is my prediction from having looked at other hobbies who have had these sort of big first explosions of growth,
Okay.
and then seeing over time how the majority of collectors perceive value and decide value within that hobby. So I'm not saying that Charizard isn't always going to be the most expensive or the most sought after, but I do think that it's getting a humongous Charizard tax right now, and I'm not confident that it deserves that much, but it could deserve even more. I mean, we may look in 20 to 30 years and nobody wants anything other than the Charizard, and it now, to me, that's kind of a dead hobby, because
Yeah, that sounds like a dead hobby.
people don't even really like Pokemon. It's sort of just like, there's so many Pokemon and all these have cool personalities and designs and arts.
Right.
I think too, as a person who really likes these characters and likes the different and played with all of the different characters in the games, when I was a kid, I might be biased because I really enjoy so many of the different Pokemon characters.
Same.
And so I love collecting the commons and uncommons. So to me, and I wonder how many people are out there are more like that. And at the end of the day, if they start really collecting what they love and we start seeing prices reflect that, if you're going to see more of, they're just great commons and commons rares from like Neo Genesis, where it's like it's the first ever appearance of the
Fortress.
yeah, but and I don't particularly love Fortress, but there are Pokemon that I do really like, that I do think are cool and interesting and funny. And one of my major goals and one of the things I really wanted to do was get a first appearance card of all of those cards in PSA 10 of all, and that to me as a collector was like it so mirrored the game of the Pokédex of collecting like a first, so I think we're in a mania in a lot of ways. And I think when you're in manias, people, rather than trying to assess value for themselves, there can be a hesitance to sort of be that brave almost and trust your own assessment of like where value is. And it's so much easier to do that group think type stuff where I'm just going to buy what other people are buying because that's going to be the safest. And that's what people tell me. But what I can tell you is I did the exact opposite, right? With level X's, with Thompson, with so many things that I felt had excellent fundamentals, going back to that rarity piece, which is really crucial because Modern has a real rarity issue, is going to be one of the issues in my opinion. And I think we should go talk about that, because I think that I know that you're bullish on certain things. I think it'd be interesting to discuss and go into that. But yeah, so these are discussions. So much is like written in stone is the vibe I get from people. And I think we're
Yeah.
just beginning. I think the hobby's just beginning.
Yeah.
And values just, and so I would really encourage people to think critically about the demand is so subjective and there's so much risk and it's so hard to predict, and that rarity piece is objective and is your friend and is going to protect you from from huge changes. So what do you think of all of that? And again, I'm sorry, I'm talking a lot here, and I really
No.
want to get your perspective. I love your content. I love the types of cards you're talking about and just like your general passion on these sorts of things. So when you look at the market right now, what excites you both as a collector, what you're going after, but then also, you know, as this investor flipper, because it sounds like you are some of both.
Yeah,
Sure.
no, I'm 100% both.
Yeah.
You know, I've told multiple people that I plan on in my future home to have PSA cards up, and they're like, "Are you sure?" But no, like I do hope to do that. But for me, I actually don't. I have a very specific collecting I guess goal, which is sealed. Like I like to collect almost everything that comes out sealed.
Nice.
That's my goal. Like every modern set. Uh, Even for instance, like this was one of my favorite purchases I made a few months ago for 1100. It's gone up since, which is awesome. But it's the black and white base set booster box, and the reason why I bought it is I was talking to one of my friends, and he's like, "Black and White's the best game of all time." He's like, has the best story. Now he's a very opinionated person, and he'll tell you there's always the best of something, and something's so great. And you know, I love him for that. But I was like, yeah, I mean, it is a great game. It has great Pokemon. The cards in the set are not worth a lot, and there's not a lot of chase cards. I've looked at the set; it's very underwhelming in terms of chase cards. But I love the sealed, like the idea of the sealed box. I think it kind of like reflects the game. It's like owning the
Will
game.
it always though? Will it always have cards that no one wants?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I hope not. I mean, I hope it
Or
does.
when that set came out, were the people who had the money and all going after base set, because all the people who
It's
had
true.
money for original 151, right?
Yeah,
And so
it's true. The money was
the
never there.
people who were buying that were kids, and they weren't going to push the price up, and
Yeah,
adults didn't believe in it and didn't see any value in it.
yeah, 100%. I mean, it seems so possible. Like with how big Pokemon is, it seems so possible. I mean, it's not like the current games are doing poorly. I mean, they're selling very well, right? So Pokemon as an IP, as far as I'm concerned, is so strong. So it does seem pretty likely. Like, yeah, I mean,
What are the cool cards from, like, what are the best cards from that set? Is that like the Zekrom, like the
yeah. So I haven't looked into it too deep, but what I remember is that there's like this really bright white Rusherham and
and the black
dark
Zekrom?
black
Yeah.
Zekrom. They're really awesome cards, and I think the tens are a few hundred. They've probably gone up a lot, so I don't know. But
Yeah. I mean, they were worth very little, you know, nothing. There
I
was
believe
no
it.
market for it before. You know, so these things have already moved quite a bit. Now the question is, are people buying these things purely out of speculation
I know.
to
Yeah.
get rich? And no one actually likes this era, or so few people. And it's possible that
Yeah, it's super
Pokemon was so
possible
low during some of these periods that even
that
if
there's no
you love it,
connection.
like even if you love it or your friend loves it, there just is so many less of you than there are people my age.
Yeah.
You know, and that's something that I think is
So
yet to be seen. You know, but
yeah, so that's why for me I think sealed is so much safer because I don't like the idea of betting on a Pokemon in a set in these mid-tier sets as much because to me what that sounds like is you're betting on the popularity of a game that was not at its hot, it's not at its peak, it was at a weird point where
yeah,
you can bet on like Pokemon where the Pokemon in the set people might not have been attached as much. But if you bet on the game as a whole, I feel like there's like I'm just Google YouTube black and white. I mean, there's so like there's so much, so many people love black and white stuff. At some point or another, black and white was an awesome game. The music's awesome. The Pokemon, like I don't know how to put it in like a great way, but I just like the idea of like it's like investing in an index fund rather than like Tesla. It's like you put your money in like it's like buying a base set pack. You know, maybe I'm like speculating too much, but I guess that's what I recommend people doing. Like I just yeah, it's just cool to me. Like it's like I have a part of the game, like a part of that time.
yeah,
But the cards could be that too. It's just harder, I think. This is more niche.
yeah. It's I definitely am very pro, if you're going to collect modern and invest in modern, keep everything sealed right now,
Yep,
particularly right now,
agreed.
because, and one of the pluses of keeping it sealed is it gives you the option to open it and sell the packs one day if the packs ever go up in value. And
Yeah,
it gives you the option of cracking the packs if someday the cards inside somehow surpass the expected value of the, like it's also just a hedging risk,
sure.
um,
Yeah,
in all of those ways as well. And basically, these things might become pretty worthless, but there can be the
yeah.
experience, the cards themselves inside, but the
It's
experience
the
of
experience.
opening
Yeah,
can be very valuable to someone, particularly if there aren't that many boxes left from a generation like that, where there may not be that many of those, as compared to the ultra modern boxes we're seeing right now. No one really knows. I don't how much of those boxes there are.
yeah,
um
yeah.
we're going to see them be flushed out over time. You're going to see people, selling them. Usually when there's huge growth in a market, you have a lot of people who've been holding things for a long time finally sell because there's huge profit to
Sure.
be made. But once those are sold and into new people's hands, it's an interesting sort of like psychology of like what's going to make them sell it, and it's going to depend on the individual who bought it. Did they buy it to flip? Did they buy it as a collector piece to hold forever? Did they buy it as a collector piece, but they're not very well off, and if things start going down, they're going to panic sell?
Right, right.
So it becomes this sort of like uh, uh, interesting game that's played there. And I think that because I'm a believer that the Pokemon community right now is so much bigger than it was a year and a half ago. Like
Yeah,
not just double. Like I think it's like could be like 5 to 10x. Like
it
I'm
could
not
be.
even sure.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
That like the vast majority of people were coming in at these new higher prices and buying from the older people who had it, which are reestablishing these sort of like newer
sure.
prices. So boxes like those um uh are boxes that I don't understand the Pokemon. I'm at a competitive disadvantage. So I think one thing to say is like someone like you have a competitive advantage against me because I understand WotC probably better than you, or some of the early
Yeah,
WotC
I would imagine.
intuitively, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But you're going to understand some of these like middle generations better. You're going to understand what people probably like more, why they liked it,
Sure. Maybe
what was
even in modern. Yeah.
yeah, and maybe modern too. And so I think that going to what you understand is important, but the supply side, and that's
Sure.
that's what I
Yeah.
worry is people aren't taking the supply side seriously enough. So what do you think about the supply side? Does it worry you? What does it worry you on? What does it not? How do you think about it?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've thought about that so much, but like it feels like there's very little history to know how it will play out. I mean, you could look at other games like Magic, which is a question I want to ask you after this. Like, why
Mm,
are Magic sealed worth so much more than the singles?
yeah.
But I don't see it as a risk because for me it's the experience. Like when I got back into Pokemon, the most valuable thing to me was opening Hidden Fates. It was incredible. Like opening up a tin and like pulling out those Pokemon and then researching like what they're worth, which you could argue I don't care about the Pokemon as much. I cared about the value, but like
Yeah.
opening it up and opening the packs and like getting these hits, like to me was so much fun.
Yeah.
I could have done that all day, every day. Like, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's gambling and but it was so much fun, especially compared to the other sets. Incredible. And so for me, like, that's why I love the idea of the sealed modern, even if like there is a lot of it, because that experience is just so enjoyable and like it's going to be enjoyable to kids. And then when it becomes more rare, and by the way, I don't actually think most people have the capability to hold sealed. I think most people rip it. Like everyone I talk to is like, I can't hold anything sealed because I open it, which is fine. I get that. It's so fun, but that's the point, right? Like I feel like that's the point. Like I, most people open what they have,
Yeah.
and then even in 10 years, it's still going to be fun to open Hidden Fates and Shining Fates. In fact, it will likely be much more fun because there's going to be some element of rarity. It's not base set rarity, but it will be more rare. And so I don't know. I feel confident on it just because like when I got back in, like that's what I loved. Like I would pay the most for sealed stuff. I've actually bought very little singles. I've spent almost 80% of my money on sealed stuff for that experience. So
So I think where the newer people are at a disadvantage is they don't know how the hobby can get boring. And they don't know how the hobby can get repetitive, and how pack
Yeah.
opening and watching pack openings can get repetitive, and
I've
opening
started to feel like
a
that.
bunch
Yeah.
can get repetitive.
Yeah.
And so with that is going to come less demand on certain items and certain things, unless you
Okay.
have
That's a good
new
point.
people who are really excited coming in. But I think it's going
Mm.
to wax and wane. And I think you're going to have
It's a good point.
these higher demand periods where a lot of that happens. But your point is excellent, which is how much of that product gets opened and how many people can
I
actually,
think it's super underrated. I
yeah,
actually
how
think
many
it's
people
super
can,
underrated.
and I love your psychological point of like, because I feel that, right? It's like when I have a bunch of sealed product around, like how long can you really hold that, because it's so fun and exciting to open it. And
Right.
my answer is it's not difficult for me to hold my very expensive stuff, but
Same.
my like but like my, you know,
Yeah.
$100,
Voltage booster box.
$150
Yeah.
whatever, that I open.
Yeah.
Because it's fun and it's worth it to me, and you know, and whatever. And I imagine that a lot of people who are hoarding lots and lots of this product, they like open it once in a while. You know, they like
Absolutely.
they dip
Yeah.
in the stash here
Yeah.
and there. You know, they're trying to keep it all sealed. But for a
Yeah.
special occasion, I'm going to take one out. You know, and but I think people greatly underestimate how many like
I can see
base
that.
set booster boxes there are. Like I hear people saying there are
Oh,
probably
really?
like a couple, like there are probably like 10,000 or so Evolutions booster boxes left. I'm like, guys, that's how many base set boxes. It's probably like five. It's
Oh,
probably
really?
like it could be 5 to 10,000 base set booster boxes left.
Okay. Yeah.
You think Evolutions has only has that that has the same amount as those, you know, and then
Right.
multi-packs. So I think that there's so many Pokemon fans right now that the product is so displaced across the whole world.
Gotcha.
My feeling is that there's like people's numbers aren't high enough. I could be very wrong on that. It's all speculation at the end of the day.
I see what you're saying.
But a little bit of it's informed, you know, for me, or so because I talk to LGS owners and big collectors who are holding this type of stuff and get a sense of like how, you know, how much they think there is of each
Sure.
set, that type of stuff. But yeah, but it's you know, the sealed boxes will get opened up over time. You know, for me, if I had a $1,000 booster box of Evolutions, no way in hell am I opening that.
Same.
So
I wouldn't.
I'm just not sure how many people, but people do for their streaming channels because they sell the packs. But I don't know how many people who aren't wealthy at this point are opening $1,000 or now $800, whatever. I think it's come back down a bit, but $800 to $1,000 booster box, you know, fairly modern booster box where you can't grade the cards anymore because PSA is so backed up and it's probably going to get flooded. And it's going to be a disaster. And like 15% of cards at 15% of Pokemon cards probably at PSA are just Evolutions cards.
Oh yeah. Oh, trust me, I can really back that up.
Yeah.
I opened like 10 or 12 Evolutions booster boxes, cracked them all, sent everything off the PSA. Reverse hollows, a Charmander, non-hollow, Pikachu, not everything. So,
and I can tell you that all the old collectors have a ton of Evolutions. So it's not just the new people who came in and started opening it and rediscovering it. All the old people, when, you know, in 2016, were opening a bunch of it, keeping it in mint condition, sleeping all this up, and had hundreds of these Charizards. So
I believe it. Yeah.
So, you know, I've had 50 and I didn't go after the card. I didn't try to buy the card. Okay. So they just like came to me in collections and I didn't even want, like, you know, I did intentionally pick up about 10 of them that were in really good condition with the idea that like maybe I'd be able to grade these and someday I'd be able to sell them for like a couple $100. Like that was literally my like price target on those. Not
You're right. There you go.
5,000 for a PSA pen, you know.
Yeah, but I feel like that like sort of makes sense, but maybe I can see why people think that's crazy.
So do you know my counter argument? Because I'm sure, because your argument's going to be probably right that it's because
it's like a 5%, whatever, 3%.
Yeah, but do you know my argument about why Charizard is so overpriced as compared to base set?
I don't, but I guess you'll say it's because people just haven't sent them off, or the ones that have been sent off are all currently in grading.
So there's going to be so many more PSA 10 Evolutions Charizards than there are. It doesn't matter what the percentage difference is. What actually matters at the end of the day is how many there are in the world.
Okay.
And so right now people see the differential between 9 and 10 and they say, ooh, the 10, it's really hard to get a 10. It's like, it is really hard to get a 10, but it's much easier to get a 10 of that than to get a base set 10, because there are so many less mint base set Charizards left to be graded. And so you're going to see, I predict, many more PSA 10 evolution Charizards than you're going to see PSA 10 base set Charizards, as long as the price stays high enough for people to keep sending in the nines,
Yeah.
the probable nines. So to me, a $5,000 to $10,000, and I have all sorts
That's
of
true.
stuff
It's kind of insane. Yeah.
is insane. And when you look at other hobbies, the reprints are worth, like, if we look at comic books, one statistic I like to throw out there is like the recent 9.4 CGC sale of Batman. The Batman #1 sold for $2.2 million. There are multiple reprints of that. One reprint was in 1984. You can buy it for $160. The same 160 to 2.2 million.
Not bad.
So, I mean, we could say like that reprint's incredibly undervalued, and we know what we're doing over here.
There you go. I'm going on eBay right now. No,
it just shows you that now the argument for evolutions is that there's so much demand for those cards that it overflows from base set 2, legendary collection, like the thousands of these that have already been printed.
Yeah, right.
And I don't think so. I think that there are so many base set Charizards left to be graded. I think that most people who want a base set Charizard, an original base set Charizard, are going to be able to get them.
It's not like crazy expensive yet. Yeah.
And there's so many more in collections that are being graded right now, based, like, not necessarily 10s, but and then I also think that we're in a grading mania, and that 10s are way overvalued. So that's
10s are overvalued.
Way overvalued in my 10s and 9s and 8s. And I think that grading is being overvalued in general. I think that grading historically has been more about authentication, and it's become about condition and about creating rarity where there may be, it's creating a rarity. Like that, like the Evolutions Charizard is like one of the least rare cards ever as a chase card, but it's created rarity for it because the 10 is hard to grade. And I don't think that's going anywhere completely. But why I bring that out is it's something to consider and think about. That, how long has that been that's really seen that sort of premium? And we're seeing it right now. But is that always going to be the case? And our 10s are the little speck of white on the back, or the little slight difference, and then if PSA continues to not do a good job and grade a lot of 9s 10s and a lot of 10s 9s, and really when I look at these cards, they look the exact same, this 10 and 9, like, when does that start seeping in more to the price? And my argument is it will over time. It won't destroy it, but that it's going to people are going to start buying the card or more than the grade. People are going to start looking for eye appeal more than just the grade. People are going to be looking for authentication more than just the grade, because we're going to see more fakes. Like, I like to think 20,
how far is that though?
Years.
Okay.
It's all this is risk management, we could say, and speculation, and all of it could be very wrong. I think there are good arguments to be made on the opposite side of what I'm saying, but I think that these are things that I don't even hear people considering, and that's what I guess concerns me.
No, I mean, it makes so much sense, right? Because like I've started to learn a little bit of Magic through Rudy, and isn't that what Magic is, right? I mean, the 10 isn't the 10. I actually don't know much about 10s, but I know that like an ungraded version of a card, a raw card, is not necessarily that much cheaper than graded versions, which was really shocking to me when I heard it. I'm like, oh, like a raw card can be like $2,000, and it has like a bullet hole through the middle, that was like, it was pretty funny to me. I'm like, oh, okay. And I guess maybe that's also why I like sealed. I guess I've been looking at Magic, right? Because sealed boxes are like 10x the prices of singles, or whatever, like whatever the EV is.
Yeah. It's so interesting in Magic, because in Pokemon, you'd think theoretically that the booster boxes would retain more value than the Magic boxes, because we put more of a premium on gem mint cards. So you would think that the premium on a sealed box is that you can actually get cards that we can send off for grading.
Right. Okay.
But with modern Magic, they don't grade cards, and yet the boxes still have higher value. And my understanding, not being at all a Magic player or into it at all, is it's for drafting, for opening, drafting the cards, live with your friends, and then like playing with them, and you do it with sealed product.
Really?
So
Oh,
it's like,
okay.
it's the playability side. And I'm sure that there are collectors of sealed products who maybe want one of each, but I don't
One of
really,
each.
that's not a market I know, to be honest. But I think in the Pokemon world, in the sports card world, starting right now, where we're seeing junk wax era boxes finally move up in price. They were cheaper today, like 6 months ago, they were cheaper than they were when they first came out, and now they're starting to come back up because the rookie cards, like a rookie Gary Payton, is now worth $600 in PSA 10. So people are going back and cracking open
Oh, okay.
these
Yeah.
90s boxes. So yeah, so thinking about where the value comes from, but I'm so much of the perspective that not nearly enough thought has gone into what's people's decision making in most
Well,
cases, and that the hobby's so young that we don't know in 10 to 20 years how much of a premium we're going to put on grading or not put on grading. We don't know how much of a premium we're going to do it, and where the market is going to decide when more of these debates come up. Because what we've heard, I think, from a lot of the gatekeepers is grading's everything, or these feelings of like PSA
sure.
all the way. PSA is the king. You can't grade at CGC. It's garbage. Not making arguments.
That was really funny when CGC started, like, just was announced, like it was shot to the ground. I swear every time I heard that name, it was associated with like not good, don't trust, don't do it, never value. And now it's like everyone's like, this is it. It has, you should consider it. It might be the that's like, it's so funny how it switches. Like,
the danger is most people, I think, are just talking for their own benefit, and I think you have to be careful.
I totally believe that.
You have to be careful trying to suss out, are they really even aware? Are they even aware that they're doing that?
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? Like, because there's the tendency to talk up the cards you own, talk up to talk, I think, against your own interests. For me, it comes from a place like, and I talk against my own interests all the time. And I think for me, it comes from a place of like, I think I'm so interested in the game of being right and the fun of being right, from that ego place that we were talking about before. Right. This has nothing to do with being like a saint or a good person, purely from that place of like, I would rather be right than rich. And I would rather predict these things correctly and be honest about it and have conversations about it. And I'm more interested in the game than the money or the gains and I don't like the feeling. I want to be very confident in what I own. So part of why I think everyone should be like this. When you're very devil's advocate, you should constantly be making arguments against what you're doing. Mm-hmm. And if you're not doing that, that's a sign you're probably having a little bit of delusion, and you could end up you're not actually assessing the real risk. So it's like, if I'm buying this, like, I should be well aware of all the counter arguments instead of listening to my favorite YouTuber who's not giving me any sound analysis telling me this thing's great, and keep buying it,
For sure.
So that's and again, it's no one can predict these types of things. And as I think we're illustrating in this conversation, there's way too many factors, right? It's just too complicated. It's like, what's going to happen? I don't,
Yeah. It feels like investing in the stock market too. I talked to a lot of people about it. You have this subset of people that are just like constantly bullish about something. And then you have the other subset, like, and it's really fascinating how it's like, I don't know, people are just different. Like super different.
Yeah. So what are your opinions, on modern, on certain items? I know that you've invested in quite a bit of modern product. I think you also talk about getting in at retail a lot. I've heard you say, or trying to get in at sort of like lower prices.
Yeah. I even think I've been not listening to myself enough lately, which is like, you need to, if you're gonna get into modern product, like, be very careful about buying Shining Fates at $80, $90, just because if things drop for a bit, even though I actually do believe that, like, personally, Shining Fates, it's my favorite set, like, and I think it will be for a while now. which sounds crazy to people, but like I try not to be biased about like when I open stuff. I'm just like, I just go into every set fresh. Um, so yeah,
The Gen 1er, I prefer hidden fates to shining fates,
most people say that, yeah.
but non-Gen 1ers may not feel that way.
Yeah. There was a poll I looked at recently. I mean, I don't know what the sample size was, but it was about like 60-30 sorry, 60-40 in terms of hidden fates to shining fates. Maybe it was like 65-35. I don't remember exactly. But in hidden fates' favor. And the thing is, like, even hidden fates, if that's the case, and this set is like so beloved, no matter how much there is out there, I think people are just gonna like want it and want a lot of it. And that's where like I am pretty confident in it. If you can get in it even relatively at retail, even like $40 a tin, I don't think it's like some crazy investment you're about to make 20x on in the next 5 years, but like more like a regular investment, you might do okay. You might just double, or actually, I guess that's still high, but it seems reasonable to me. I don't like actually, what is your opinion? Do you think like a box like Hidden Fates will ever drop below 40? Because in my head, that sounds like it will never happen.
So a couple things. So one, it's really dangerous how used to people are to doubling their money and thinking that they're always going to double their money and thinking that is normal. And that's what Pokemon always does. And what happens is, and you kind of alluded to this, it makes you now start, I'm going to buy above retail because Pokemon always goes up. And you might not even have that thought, but it feels,
it's there.
Everything feels golden. And trust me, I feel like my feelings are wrong all the time. That's why I try to override my feelings with logic, like every step of the way.
Yeah.
Feelings are constantly wrong. Like when I feel like I should sell something, usually I hold it, because usually when I feel like I should sell something, that's a sign that probably a lot of other people are panicking right now, and it's bringing the price down. And if I actually hold, so I track my feelings, and my feelings are mostly wrong.
Really? Wow.
At best 50%.
That's pretty cool though. Like,
yeah,
it's a great point. When everyone was selling evolutions at 500, if you held, but most people didn't hold, and I'm very I'd be shocked if most people held at 500.
Yeah, I think in the short term, feelings are often wrong. I think that my negativity towards evolutions is one thing I got really wrong, which is popularity of it, and that people actually liked it and wanted to open it and enjoyed it. Greatly underestimated that.
Yeah, I actually think it's so much more fun than even the new sets, which is why I'm actually pretty.
Yeah.
Even now, I actually think Sealed Evolutions is like solid, because like I actually think that set is so much more enjoyable for a couple of reasons. The reverse hollows, in my opinion, are just like quite cool. I like maybe I'm biased, but I like those cards, and they're starting to hold value now. Like, funny enough, like this reverse Charmander, reverse Pikachu, reverse Mewtwo, reverse Mew. It's funny, but they hold value. I know you that like.
But I could be completely wrong.
I hear you.
Because for me, man, it's just like it's supply. It's like,
I'm
so terrified by the supply that to me the demand has to. First of all, I don't like it, and I didn't like it even that much initially. I was very biased emotionally against it, and my emotions can mean some. Because I'm a Pokemon fan, my emotions about things probably can tell me some things in terms of like what people are going to like or not like. But when I said don't trust your emotions, I mean it more in the when to buy and sell.
Gotcha.
Because generally our emotions, when we panic, when you're very greedy and you think you can continue to make money, you should probably sell, because actually that's a hype period, and you're never really going to pick the best time to sell. It's not a thing.
Yeah.
So generally taking like double your money or triple, or you setting a price target and trying to just follow through on the math,
just let it go.
Numbers is a much better way to make money.
Yeah.
And you're gonna make a mistake on every single sale. Like every single sale, with the exception of a very rare one that you happen to sell at the height, you're gonna say, "Oh, I could have made more money. I could have made more money." It's brutal.
It's horrible. Brutal. Yeah.
Emotionally, it's brutal.
Oh, I'm scarred over evolutions. I sold and opened at least 20 something boxes.
Yeah.
At 155 to 500.
And so you have to have this long window of like, the way that I function makes me money over time and mitigates risk. And it's based on math. It's based on a process that actually works over the long period of time, and where I'm less focused on winning everything completely. And as really competitive people, you can get trapped in that psychology of like, I want to sell it I want to buy it at the complete lowest and sell it at the complete highest, and I want to win. And you can put that above a strategy that actually makes you money, where you actually have to take things off the table and then reinvest it into other places. So all of that stuff is like the struggle of an investor, and
right.
the depression and anxiety of investors. And my dad is a financial advisor doing this for 20 years, could talk in great detail, just the stress and toll that process takes. But for that evolutions piece, it's emotionally, I really missed that. But the supply is, and I think still certainly was at that period, there were like 50,000 boxes available, and 25-50 million dollars came in of people wanting it to push that up to 400 and then push it to 1,000. And I was just really surprised that there was that much demand, but there was. And then I think the question is, how much of that demand was speculators, flippers taking advantage of that, realizing that trend, buying into it? How much of it was genuine interest and demand really spiked, ate up a bunch of the product? And where is that price target? If we think that it's somewhere between $100 and $1,000, where is it? Or maybe it hasn't hit it yet, and maybe it's above 1,000, and people are panicking right now, and nobody knows. But again, demand scares me because it's so unpredictable, and supply makes me just sleep well at night.
Sure, but I do feel like demand is like, as unpredictable as it is, like it's got to be some sort of an ebb and flow, right? Who knows? Let's say Pokemon drops off next year, drops off. If you wait long enough, I'm not going to say the demand is guaranteed, because that's a ridiculous statement. But I would imagine it's likely that at some point or another it will come back, sort of like it did this year, based on some crazy circumstance that no one could even fathom, like COVID. And who knows?
But if you look in collectibles history, there are collectibles that never got back to a certain demand period, or haven't gotten back to yet. And then there are collectibles that completely died.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Like they're, things like porcelain doll, like different things that were huge at
like Beanie Babies. That's the only one I know.
Sure, Beanie Babies, but there were things also that had multiple runs. Now, every time I think you have another run or hype period, or people rediscovering their childhood, getting back into it, teaching their kids, the more I think it extends the likelihood of, we could say, a market becoming like established in people's minds as valuable and like more sustainable. And I think that to kill sports cards, would be, I don't know how long that would take. I don't know how many generations it would take of people
it seems
rejecting it. It probably would take a while. It might be sort of a slow decline, rather than, I don't think it'd just be like everyone wakes up one day and like, art that to me was worth $1 million is now worth $0. Like I don't see that happening, right?
Of course not.
But generations saying, "Dad, you're a weirdo. Cards are stupid, and my friends and I are like in virtual reality."
Yeah, I was about to say.
Right, and like
you're in the real world still, bro. Come on, move on.
Yeah, and that's where like NFTs, and some of these other, how do we bring collectibles into the digital space and connect it to video games, and how is that going to be the next collectible and appeal to kids? How's it going to take away from this? All this sort of risk. But yeah, in the short term, what do you do with all of that? I don't know. I think about it a lot. I'm not sure. I think for me, it's moving to my highest, to use stock terminology, my highest conviction items. So the items that I have the strongest conviction that the supply and demand numbers are the best, and that when those items, I mitigate some risk from that financial perspective. And then in terms of like the collectible enjoyment perspective, just like buying what really makes you happy, and spending time with those cards, I think are the two like best ways to enjoy the hobby. And I think both of us care about both of those things. So
yeah, absolutely. I've thought about that a lot. Like, even just having the sealed stuff, I really do like it. You know, like I wake up, like I go to work and I just get to look at it. I'm like, oh, that's cool. You know, it just like looks cool to me. In fact, I had a case of Hidden Fates, and generally, I think if I'm not mistaken, cases of stuff tend to sell for a bit more than if you were to take it out. But I opened it, like I opened my Hidden Fates case of 10 boxes because I'm like, I actually just enjoy having it here, and I think I'll enjoy it for forever. And you know, in 20 years, I'll really like still value, I think, these boxes. Like I don't know for sure. My life could completely change. But if it stays even relatively the same, I can look back at it and have those memories. And
Yeah.
like that's where the value could come from. Which I think is a cool thing to think. You know, it's a cool idea to think about. You know.
Yeah, on the plus side, you have increased rarity as more booster boxes get open, and you have age, which increases,
Right.
and age
That's
increases
such an advantage.
the value
Yeah.
of things. When we look at something that's much older, we see more value, generally speaking.
Mhm.
All things the same. So both of those things are in the plus category. The negative could be boredom, you know, just not being interested in
Yeah.
this stuff, new collectibles or new things that people care about more, or society moving on from this or shifting in other directions,
Right. Right.
you know?
Yeah. It's. I hope Pokemon stays on forever because you know
Yeah.
I love the game so much, and just like the series as a whole. But I guess we'll never know. I did have a thought I wanted to bring up to you, which
Yeah.
I think is cool and is almost never talked about, if ever, which is the idea of cards having more value to you because you pulled them.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's one of the most underrated ideas of cards. Like personally, I can buy a Blaziken off someone and it won't feel, honestly, it just doesn't, like, I like it, it's cool, but I don't feel that much attachment to it. It's like catching a Pokemon and
Yeah.
then trading for it. Have you ever played a Pokemon game? You buy it from GameStop, pre-owned, has all the legendaries. You're like, it's cool, I guess, for like a day
Yeah.
or 2 days, but it's not really, you're not like connected to it.
Yeah.
So for me, I think that's like another thing that is a reason why like evolutions might stay high, because even if there's so many of these Charizards, people will want their own, quote
Mhm.
unquote,
Yeah.
that they open. Is that a thing or is it not?
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I think that it to your point, it raises the value of the booster boxes and lowers the value of the already open cards, right? In this scenario.
Agreed. Yeah.
Because it you know, anything that I can buy that's going to allow me the opportunity to open it. One other thing I'll throw in there is that grading your own card is very similar too for people.
Oh,
So
it's such a great feeling.
right.
Yeah.
And so that provides, so the end line is that graded card. If you just buy a completed PSA 10 set, it's like
Yeah.
it's over already.
I
Like,
actually don't, I
yeah.
don't buy PSA cards because I just don't like it. Like I'm like, it just doesn't feel great.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I really enjoy it and I still like the chase, but
Yeah.
I it's not so extreme for me. It's like I really like that. I like owning it. I like the feeling of completing the set. I like the feeling of chasing down something, having it authentic, knowing that it's going to be in a certain kind of condition versus risking buying the ungraded thing.
Yeah.
But the ungraded thing I can buy for a lot cheaper. I enjoy the process of grading my own sets, just like I might enjoy the process of opening my own packs, getting the card, because I found that I went through the journey of getting it graded. I got back
Right.
and I used my skill to do it. I think it's part of why grading has taken off so much is that it's the fun of the gamble. It's a whole nother pack opening. You know,
Double
it's
pack opening. Yeah.
yeah, it's like I did a pack opening, I got this, and now I'm gonna wait for the gamble of is it gonna get a 9 or 10.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm in complete agreement with you. I think you're thinking the right way in terms of where is the value really, and the value at the end of the day
Yeah.
is gonna earn that price or that higher price point.
Right. Which is, yeah, like I have so much connection to, like, for instance, here, I'll quickly, let me find it, but here it is. This is Dark Blastoise. I will likely never sell it, even though I don't really have a connection to Blastoise. I mean, it's cool. I've played with it in certain games.
Yeah.
But I bought a first edition Team Rocket pack. I have a TikTok video of it. That video did well. I shared it with a lot of people. It was really cool. I pull this card, a first edition vintage card, and it comes back at 10.
Yeah.
And like, it was an incredible feeling. And I have a YouTube video of it. So like this card to me is a story, right? More than the Pokemon or even the art, which is like, that's what's really cool to me. Like in particular, that's what I love about Pokemon. I love, like when I look at Blaziken, I think about the Elite Four that I played 20 times in a row with just Blaziken and Skarmory.
Yeah.
Like, so, yeah, that's why I think that's why I'm like particularly bullish on sealed, at least for me.
Yeah, I think another part of sealed too, and I'll throw this up there. You probably won't know what this is if you don't know Dragon Ball Z, but this is a Dragon Ball GT limited edition, and I've been tracking down booster boxes of this and packs of this, and because it's so rare, it's kind of like owning a Deoxys box or something, and so there's this feeling of like, this item sealed is a rare item. If this was opened, it wouldn't be rare anymore because there's a lot of these cards out in the world.
Gotcha.
And so there's also that element too, as these booster boxes get rarer, getting harder to find, that as just pieces put up on a shelf, the item itself is rare to find one that's sealed.
Gotcha.
And so
Gotcha.
for all those reasons, investing in sealed products, phenomenal. Here are the negatives though, in my mind.
Okay. Yeah, I'd love to hear them, honestly.
You're probably going to open your product, and I'm going to throw, and we touched on one of the big negative ones already, which is,
but that's kind of a positive, right?
Like, you keep it.
Yeah, it's a great point, but like at the same time, that is like another pro, right? Because if you're the guy who doesn't open it, I mean,
pro for the investing, yeah. But I'm saying, like, for an individual who buys it, it's like, are you the type of person who's going to be able to keep that sealed?
Okay. Yeah. So you got to know yourself. Sure.
And like, are you real, and how many, and what's that really going to be like? And that's a really big deal for most people.
That's what I'm saying. But that's why.
Yeah. It might not be for you, like, very genuinely, but it's like a real thing for a lot of people, and that's a pro for you, as you were saying, alluding to, and we talked about.
Right, it's a mix. I mean, like last night I cracked 2 Shining Fates tins. I know. Sue me, but
throwing money at now.
I know.
It's enjoying the hobby by actually like opening packs and collecting it. How dare you?
Crazy, right?
It's about money. This is only about money.
Oh, it is. It is only about money. Yes, sir.
You knew. You had a strong.
Oh yeah. I have an X-ray actually, so it's no big deal.
Yeah.
But
you're selling it for like $1 million. Only $1 million. X-ray.
It will exist one day, and sealed will go to nothing. Like, there's gonna be like light packs. This is a Magneton hollow base set pack for $500.
Yeah, that would be super interesting what it would do. But yeah, so another negative is people don't like sealed product a lot of the time, or like it as much as the PSA card or the. Now, this is really, a lot of people really like it, but there's a lot of people who don't like having sealed product just sitting there. They want the card inside.
Oh, okay.
They want the specific card from their
for
child.
Their own enjoyment.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And they want the 10, and there's no sure thing that the 10 is in that box. They want the completed. They're a set completionist person who wants it completed in the highest grade possible. So there are parts of the market where that box makes absolutely no sense for them, because they're a PSA. They like the PSA card, and it's so much cheaper to just buy the card, grade it, and cut out the sealed product part, because the sealed product part, if you want the card at the end of the day, is the worst way and by far the most expensive way to actually get.
Yep, that's a good point. Yeah, so, for sure.
That's
I would never buy a Neo box, but I want the Skarmory.
Yeah, and you love Blaziken, right? And you wanted that original card. You're not going to buy the box.
I'm not buying EX. I actually considered it, but like, just because I loved it so much.
If you really want the card, is to get now.
Absolutely.
Everyone wants everything. I want the booster box also. Okay,
I get what you're saying, but yeah, I agree.
And it's cheaper, and it's a cheap way to get the exact card or the exact thing you're interested in. And you might be not interested in 99% of the set, but one card in the set you're really interested in, and then you just want that card. And so someone's going to have to open up those boxes and take the losses for you to end up getting that card finally.
Yeah, but so tank the losses, but it's what I'm saying, what I was saying earlier, which I think is just massively underlooked, which is, for instance, okay, as much as people might not like the guy Mizkif, right? He opened up that Lugia from his Neo box, which I'm sure he's going to love that. He's never going to sell that card. He's going to love that card because it's like a story to him. And like for me, a PSA 10 that I grade is 10 times more valuable than what I can buy on eBay. And I think that that might be the case for a lot more people. And I know you just argued that people
Yeah.
want the completionist. They're not, that's not necessarily what they're worried about, but maybe
I
people, I
think
don't know if
there's
people say that
something
out
to
loud.
that. I think there's something to that, but I can tell you, I don't care that much,
Okay.
genuinely.
Yeah.
Um, I actually really like opening packs for its own experience. And I'm absolutely fine like opening one booster box or one or a few packs and then just buying the chase cards right after. And
Yeah.
that's really fun for me because I really enjoyed the opening of the pack. I didn't need to pull the chase card. And
Yeah.
so it just goes to this thing of like the hobby's broad and everyone's different and gets
Right,
different
right.
value from different things. And so when you're investing, how do you sort out where the majority of the market is and how do you get outside your bubble, which is a huge part of
Sure.
this conversation.
Yeah.
It's like getting out of the bubble you're in and listening
Yeah.
to other people. So time in the hobby, time talking to different generations, having these types of conversations,
Yeah, absolutely. It is funny. It is funny how, in that regard, we're the exact opposite. So it's like
yeah,
we're naturally going to invest in what we think is better based on our own taste, whether or not we see it or not.
sure.
So
Sure. Yeah, where that demand comes from. But supply, we can
we can agree on that,
supply,
sure.
we can agree if we knew. Yeah, no one actually knows the supply of these things, but if
Yeah, which is
we
crazy.
saw the number, I'd be like, if you said that it was different, I'd be like, you're wrong. Objectively, it wouldn't be
Yeah,
like we both have
You're
subjective
lying.
differences on demand. But yeah, so anything else to sort of add maybe before we wind down a little bit? We can also just like hang out, talk a little bit more.
Yeah.
Anything, things that you wanted to bring up in this conversation before we
Yeah, so everyone go buy Evolutions right now. We're gonna pump it to the moon. $2,000.
yeah.
Let's go.
Hey, I sent a bunch of my Charizards off because I thought PSA prices would go up. I sent them off in December and I was just like, fine, guys, you win.
Nice.
But I didn't, but I have like 25 of those surfing Pikachus. I like,
Yeah.
right. I have like tons of Evolutions cards because when I came into the hobby, it was super cheap to buy Evolutions. And so I bought a bunch of Evolutions for fun. And it's super easy to pull those cards. And at least it was for me. I don't actually know what the pull rates on those were, but I was pulling like a lot of them.
The Surfing Pikachu.
Yeah.
I think it's like one every other box or every box about that.
I feel like I got more than one a box, but it's been so long that I have no idea.
Yeah, I know most of the pull rates because like I cracked like it felt like one-ish a box.
One-ish a box. Yeah, I mean that's not that much, but that's still
no, it's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah, I mean, what was really funny is going about that card. I saw value in it because the PSA, which makes no sense. The Surfing Pikachu PSA 10 is like 250 right now, but it was like 160 when I got in. The card was $1. I'm like, holy, this is the weirdest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, so I mean, it was completely worthless a little bit ago.
Yeah, now it's $10.
I have the original, like a few of the original in PSA 10, which to me is a much better value than the Evolution.
It's like the same price.
Yeah.
How funny is that?
Are they really the same price right now?
I think so, yeah.
Oh my God, guys.
Yeah. No, it's pretty cool.
How do you explain
Evolutions
that?
to the moon. Let's go, baby.
Explain that.
No, I'm serious. I'm pretty sure they're the same price. They're like 250.
Oh my God. What possible rationality? That's
Evolutions is cool.
Evolution's cool. It's cooler.
What's the
It's cooler to have like a newer reprint.
Yeah, you oldie.
Yeah, it's but yeah, I mean I've completely missed out, we could say, or misjudged all the modern stuff so far.
Sure.
I put all my money in things that went up during that time. All the money I put in was into like Marvel cards and Harry Potter cards, which have all like 15x'd. So I'm not sitting here upset.
Yeah.
Money that I could have possibly put. Now it was funny because I thought about buying some modern booster boxes when they were around $100. Not Evolutions. I never would have bought Evolutions because I just thought it was terrible. And I knew for a fact there was way more of that than any other set, and there was endless amount. Pokemon was trying to give those booster packs away. People were like,
I heard that. That's really funny.
Yeah. They were in every single product forever, that type of stuff. But some of the what was I looking at? Things like Burning Shadows, and there's some booster boxes that hadn't moved at all that were still like around $100.
Mhm.
And some other booster boxes had like doubled or tripled all of a sudden within a week, like super weird activity.
Yeah.
Like around like Team Up. Um,
Oh yeah, yeah.
um,
I know what you're talking
I
about.
don't know if you're watching that time period closely, but I was like, okay, well, these booster boxes are probably going to double or triple next, because what everyone does is everyone sees movement on one thing and then says, well, that means this other thing should be more valuable. But it's also like such an immature market that does that, because
Yeah, yeah.
and is so easily
Yeah.
manipulable, right?
Oh,
Because
oh yeah.
right,
It's
like
very.
all you have to do is get one high sale of something over here,
Oh, it's GG. Yeah.
and then you can say, then a bunch of other people will be like, this other thing that's similar to that should then obviously be going for more. And the
Right.
question
Like
I had at the end of the day is, where's all the money coming from? Where is all this money? Like,
I
I get
know.
psychology,
A lot
but
of people. I know a lot of people are buying and they don't care about it, which is
yeah.
like is the bit of the scary thing. Like I've talked to a bunch of people like that. I'm like,
Hmm.
I don't like that.
Can
It's
you say
like
more about the not caring? What do you mean?
they don't care about Pokemon. Like they
Oh,
don't.
they're just doing it to make money.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah,
And that I don't. I'm fine with them doing it. Like
yeah.
do what you want, but to me that's a bad omen on a lot of this modern stuff. Like, I know Steam Siege is the greatest set of all time. Like that Volcanion should be 10K, but I'm just playing. But like I don't know why that booster box is so much, right? Like that's what scares me when a box like that, which I honestly don't even know the cards in the set that well. I know there's a Steelix but
Yeah, I don't know. I
it's
don't
weird
think
that
any sets from those eras are that great. I mean, I,
yeah, like Rebel Clash. It's like just so meh.
I mean, Burning Shadows isn't a good set outside of the Charizard.
I actually dislike it a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, but a lot of those sets, like Ultra Prism, had like a couple great cards, but like overall, these sets are not
No. Yeah.
that interesting. I think Rainbow Rares are just okay. I think that they're cool. I actually think that they look good in cases,
They really do.
interestingly,
Yeah.
for some reason, and they do look good, like a bunch of them together in binders. I do enjoy them, but they're also quite repetitive. And when I compare the Rainbow Rares to like the level X's,
Or Gold Stars. Yeah.
or Gold Stars, yeah, and they're more in terms of pull rate. They're certainly harder than the level X's, and they're more in that Gold Star. They're easier than the Gold Stars, but not. It's like, what is it? It's every
Rares?
other. Is it 1 in 72, or is it like 1 in 50 something?
I think
Or-
it's 1 in 50 something because you usually
It's
get one in a box.
it's one and
Yeah.
a half boxes, right, per Rainbow Rare, or something
Something
like
like
that. Or it
that.
depends on
Yeah.
the set. I'm not even sure anymore. But
Mhm.
and this goes to the fact that I'm not following Modern like so well. I could tell you so much about all these vintage things, and with Modern, I'm sort of like, I pay attention, but I just don't, because of the supply side, I just don't see it as worth it, I guess, to really do these deep dives. And I think that vintage is still affordable. And that's the part that I think
Yeah.
is interesting, is like,
Yeah.
so I really like Modern from a collector's perspective. So I buy all the stuff I really like. And I like buying the new set and opening it and having fun with it. And I clearly, a lot of people who are buying Modern are just doing it for fun. They're or mainly for fun, because they really like it and they like it better than the vintage, or they can open at least packs and to go to the point.
Sure, it's much more fun. And some of the cards, like just being real, like this. So this is the Shiny Star V.
Yeah, it's an awesome card.
I mean, in a slab, like if you see this card in person, the way it shines and the way it looks,
Yeah.
I actually don't think there's like a vintage card I've seen that I'm like, wow, it looks better. Like, so there's some value just in that, like the eye appeal, which is kind of what you're saying.
Yeah, but have you ever looked at like any Dragon Ball Super card? Do you know Dragon Ball Super at all? Every card looks like it's like
that.
the rarest holy grail. like
Oh,
like
I've seen them, not in person.
Like your
though.
average like rare card. It's like the most amazing hollow pattern. So it's interesting, right? Because these companies could make every card probably
Like
look
that.
incredible.
Yeah.
So part of it is how they stagger it to create value around certain cards, and let you know what is the most expensive, or what is the chase card. And so I think that there actually can be a little bit of like a jumping the shark's not quite the right terminology, but phrase, but the sort of jumping the shark effect of it can, there's this need to kind of make them shinier and shinier and more
Yeah,
and
yeah, like
and
power creep.
what can happen, yeah, power creep, shiny creep, we could call it whatever.
Sure, shiny
Uh,
creep. There
you
we
know,
go.
and what can happen is there's just too much and it all looks the same. And then what looks different? Vintage. What
Sure.
then becomes appealing? It becomes the less shiny and crazy stuff and the hand drawn, like Japanese vintage art that started it all. And that's the type of thing. And I think it's going to oscillate. And I like both.
Yeah,
But I like some of that hand drawn, more simpler stuff sometimes, particularly when I get kind of, it's like every shiny card is like all this stuff and all
sure.
this craziness. But it gets to this idea too of, are we buying the art? Are we buying the way the card looks? Or are we buying the history and the significance of the card? Are we buying some of both? I think one of the big arguments against vintage from people who really love modern is like the cards are ugly and boring.
Yeah, yeah. I hear that a bit.
Yeah, and so you're just buying it for the history. And I think it's a good argument. I mean, I think it's an argument to say, are people just tricking themselves? Does anyone who didn't grow up with these take a look at these and see awesomeness? Or are they going to take a look at that card and be like, that's awesome? Like, these are all really good
Yeah.
arguments. I
No,
don't
for
know.
sure. Like first edition base of Charizard, I look at that card, I'm like, I know it's the card, but I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't want it at all. Like people are like flexing it. I'm like, cool, man, but like, it looks great, but I respect it too.
Yeah, I mean, it's part of why, like, let's see if I have some, things to talk. It's part of why I love this Charizard.
Mm-hmm.
I just love the way the Crystal Charizard looks. Now, not everyone does, but to me,
Sure.
the crystal pattern and the pattern, and to me, the E series, like all the E series cards, had such gorgeous art, and so much kind of more interesting, intricate background art than the earlier cards. But the earlier card layout, because I grew up with those cards and open packs as kids, I just respond to that layout so much.
I hear you. Yeah, I think most people probably feel that way.
And then you have cards like,
Well,
this type of thing, non-hollow, with a Psyduck card, I think cool, interesting art, but people might look at this and just be like,
right. Like, what is that?
Is that? I want like the shiny, Charizard, these types of things. Whereas I look at that card and I say, oh my God,
Yeah, one thing that I think is like this is like a really it's a big shot in the dark, but that could be super fascinating, and I think there's potential to be a lot of money made in this, especially for artists, is laying out PSA cards in a way that makes other art. So like, how like there's just like this art style where you'll paint a picture of a person using people. So it's like a bunch of like tan colored people for the face, and then yellow colored people for the hair, and it like, do you get what I'm saying or not really?
Say it one more time. So you're
Yeah, so there's this type of art where in order to draw a person, you have to use people, like you're using small people to make a big person.
Okay.
So like, but those people, the small people, are all the same color, like they'll be entirely yellow to look like hair.
Okay.
And then just like building, basically what I'm saying is you build art pieces with cards. So like, for instance, if I put a bunch of these in a big circle, or let's say I had a gray card or a yellow card like this,
it's going to form you could form another card with a bunch of cards.
Right. I can make an electrode out of electrode cards. Right. Okay. I know that's super weird. I just want to put it on the table because I think it's something that could happen in the future, and it would be really cool to see.
Yeah, it could be an art style. There's certainly paintings like that are in famous museums, I'm sure.
Yeah, and it just seems like something rich people would buy.
Yeah, I think what I'm really interested in with PSA, and I was talking about this with some guys last night, is so they've raised the prices on us, right? They've doubled the prices on us here. Are they going to add anything? Are we going to get NFTs connected to these items? Are we going to get a different online tracking system where we can like visually see our cards and put them in? Are they going to start adding something to the cases that give us more protection, more tracking, more being able to sort it, If it gets stolen, will it be easier to what what are they planning? Because these companies are so not are so behind in terms of so many things, both how they're grading in terms of
Right.
the crazy old just continuous human errors that are constantly being made, and then also the cases themselves and what else they could do with them. And the tracking systems, particularly BGS is the worst. BGS's website is just so bad.
It's the main reason why I don't use BGS. I get a headache.
Yeah, it's so difficult to navigate. Like, I don't understand.
Yeah.
I have people literally writing me Instagram messages like, Jake, how do you use the asking me, how do you use the BGS website?
I still don't know to this day.
Yeah. It's so, the PSA website is certainly better than that, but yeah, just, and with the new ownership, it's like, what are they going to do with that money? Are they going to offer something else? How are they going to compete? How are they going to change? It'll be interesting to watch.
So many things they could do. It's actually crazy. They can make colored cases for the first 5 that get submitted. They could,
yeah. And then on the Pokemon side, are they going to go the sports route of the 1 of 1s, of the 1 of 99? So
seems likely.
Cards, and are they going to do like autographed by the artist cards, hand drawn, sketch by the artist, 101?
Sure, something it can be 1 of 1 anything. Yeah,
well, I would open those packs. That'd be fun. I'm sure that
absolutely
would be too expensive, and so I probably wouldn't open them. But
like the $3,000 case, the sports card case, they open it up. Like, oh, it's like the Deal or No Deal case. They open it up.
Man,
yes, $3,000.
There's something about, and I was talking to someone about this last night, a friend of mine. There's something about just like paying $3,000 to a company for giving me some cardboard that I feel like I'm just getting completely scammed by this.
Yeah,
like, well done, company. You have like psychologically tricked me into purchasing cardboard from you for $3,000. That brand new cardboard that you just
maybe some leather, Jake. Be careful.
Yeah, some sort of fabric, some sort of material that they've added to the thickness of the card. It's just, it's one thing purchasing items that are very expensive that are many years old. It's another thing purchasing an item that I know this company like made last week for like a penny.
Yeah.
That I'm giving them $4,000 in return. That just shows you the power of rarity.
Brand. Oh, sure.
Brand for sure, 100%, because it's all brand. It's the combination of brand and rarity. Exactly. We're partnered with the NBA, and this specific one is the one to get. It's the one that everyone's decided is going to be the most expensive.
Yep.
And they've set it up. Yeah, and they've set it up that the secondary market is so huge that they can charge so much for the original packs.
Yeah, it's like Pikachu Illustrator, right? That card, I think there's a reason why it's more expensive, but surely it's definitely not the most rare card, but people think it is, and people will likely always think it is. The majority of the Pokemon community. I bet if you polled the majority of the Pokemon community, they would say it's Illustrator. In fact, I'm not even sure what the most rare card is, to be honest with you. I don't know what it is. I know it's not Illustrator because I watch your content, but
the rarest cards are like these ridiculous like 1 of 1 trophy cards with the winners' faces on them.
Okay. I don't know. That seems like fake.
Yeah, one came up for sale, but and when, I forget exactly how much it went for, but it didn't go for like that much. It went for a lot. Like, obviously it's a 1 of 1.
Right. But, yeah, I don't know. That feels like it should have, though. It's like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's a little weird owning some random dude's face on your card.
Yeah. I want your face on my card.
This is the winner of that year. Yeah, it's like, oh, okay, man. A little weird, but
yeah.
But
it should be illegal. Technically,
yeah, like the original Pikachu trophy cards, like the 1997 ones, the Snap cards that are like, there are 20 of each of those.
Gotcha. Okay.
There are different cards that are
Evolution's Charizard.
Going to be rare. Yeah, Evolution's Charizard.
That's top 3.
One of the rarest cards out there.
Yeah, especially the PSA 9.
Yeah, great value on the PSA 9. I remember I made a video that just absolutely slammed that card that I never released. And I made it because that PSA 9 sold for $1,250 in a PW
Yeah,
auction.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I made a video basically saying like that was titled "The Worst Purchase in Pokemon History."
Oh,
And I
you
was
should have
like, I
released it.
can't
Come on.
release that. No, no one. I can't. I was about to. I made a video saying, yeah, that the title was going to be like, yeah, the worst purchase ever made in Pokemon history, and then it's just going to be
You
all
should have
about
put that out.
the analytics of why. But I'm just like, who bought that and what? They saw that video.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you're interested, but if the time ever
There it is.
comes, I
You were the
got
buyer. You were the buyer.
you got me. You got me. I know. I know. I regret it to this day.
Yeah. I was like, I will give my collection, I will for free to someone if that ends up being a good fit. Like I said stuff like that in that video. I said, I don't make predictions, but that car, and at the time it was going, at the time the unlimited Charizard was going for like 6,000 PSA
Yeah.
9. So
The
that's
7 was 1,500. Yeah.
yeah, so that's how people got that ridiculous price point. But
Yeah.
I was very confident that the PSA 9 unlimited Charizard wouldn't hold, and I was even more confident in that evolution.
Yeah, it's bizarre. I mean, like just to think that like this card,
Yeah,
first edition PSA 9 Holo, is only a 4x this
yeah,
is quite bizarre. But I guess that's popularity, like you were saying.
yeah. I mean, at least with the tens, it's that argument of like it is still rarer. It's not going to be rare in the future, but right now it's rarer to have the PSA 10 Evolution Charizard than it is to have the base set one. So at least there's that. But if you look at the nines, how many Evolutions nines are there? Aren't there like
I think it's almost 4K.
Yeah, and how many base set? Probably around 4K too. I bet it's.
I think it's around. Yeah, it's probably about the same.
Yeah, I'm gonna check quickly just for fun. Entertain the audience who's gonna be watching this.
Hey guys, what's your favorite Pokemon? Comment it down below right now for a chance to win Jake's collection.
Yeah, should I give away my entire collection at the end of the channel?
Yeah, to me, but
yeah,
we could you could say it's a giveaway, but like, you know what I mean? They get a lot of subs, but
wink, wink.
And I'll give you back half of it because
very generous. Sounds like a really good deal for subs for me to give away half my collection.
Exactly.
Pick up 100 subs for that. Worth it.
It's not bad. I mean, they're gonna flake after the giveaway ends, but I mean, you'll feel good in the moment.
So, what is your goal for your channel? Let's talk a little bit about your channel. What you're trying to do over there.
Sure.
Yeah. What's happening over there?
Yeah. So my current goal is to get to 10K subs. It's a bit of an arbitrary number, but I like to give quantifiable goals so I can pursue them, and so I can say to the people watching the video, I think it, it's like a hurrah thing. Everyone's like, oh, let's go to this common goal, and it's more fun that way. So my current goal is 10K subs, and I just want to be able to have a large enough audience where if I decide to do some fun event, I can do it easily. And I guess I'm fortunately already almost at that point with 4K subs.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have intent to like do a lot of fun things around the Pokemon community. Even what I said with like the whole art thing, I know how crazy it sounds, but like even just creating like collection pieces. I'm not a super artsy guy, but like this idea to me of getting like 10 PSA cards that are like black and shiny and putting them next to each other, in my opinion, would be really cool compared to the individual card, which I know sounds weird, but yeah, I think for my channel, I want to do a lot of cool events. And then the second thing I want to do is I want to do kind of what you're doing. I mean, which is bring information to people that primarily helps them avoid hype and avoid these dangerous trains of thought that are crazy bullish. And I say a lot of things too that are sometimes a bit crazy and can be taken that way, and I get it. But I do my best based on what I know to help people just stay in the right direction. And I want to do this long term. Like I want to make a lot of friends from it. I actually I really hope I make a lot of friends from it, so I can go to like cons and stuff like that. So yeah, I
think it's possible too. It is possible to be too bearish, and I may look back on this year of my videos, if I ever watch some of them back, and be like, I was too bearish there, or I was
Yeah.
too anxious and nervous and worried that people were going to lose money or I was going to lose money, and I missed out on some opportunity, that type of thing. And that's always part of investing too. So I'm always on that risk side, always very conservative, because I just have this, I guess my style, and this was my same style when I was a poker player, in video games, anything. Don't take big risks. Outwork people and do little and hit singles. I'm a hit
Like
singles guy.
fundamental the heck out of them.
Yeah, exactly. Just like, just little baby steps over and over and over and over again. Do what works, do it has a high percentage of working.
Sure.
And then um I do take home run swings once in a while, but it's pretty rare for me. Whereas I think other people can take a lot more home run swings, but if you're taking them in smart ways and you're understanding your sort of implied odds, one of the key components of taking risk is understanding your implied odds. And this is true for poker too, or any sort of game any sort of gambling or betting, where you understand that you have a small chance of success, but if you succeed in this, you're going to make 100 times in your money, or whatever. You're going to get such a huge gain
that it outweighs the others.
that it outweighs the risk, even if you have a small chance of getting it. So it's the idea in the startup community. It's like, if I start up 10 companies, if I start up 100 companies, 99 of them are probably going to fail. But if I hit one out of the park, it makes up for all those others. Or for angel investors who want to invest in a lot of companies.
It's funny. I was literally about to say that.
Yeah. I'm putting $10,000 in 100 tech companies. I'm going to lose on 99 of them, but one of them is going to make me
one of them is Google.
Yeah. Right. So it's worth it. I think that is a way of doing it. And that's a way of mitigating risk when you think of it like that. But the danger is when you're not aware you're doing that, and you don't have 100 options, and you're betting the farm on something that has very low chance to succeed because you are falling for some sort of get rich quick.
I agree. That's so dangerous
type thing, where and this hope, this falling for that hope, that feeling of hope that this is going to save my life or radically change my life. And that kind of deludes you on the actual like math of chance to success. But hope and hard work and perseverance, when you really work at something over and over and over again, you greatly increase the chances of it being successful. But then you have to decide where should I put all that hard work, or what systems actually work, and how do I stay humble enough to kind of reassess and change directions, and all that sort of stuff, and keep the train moving forward. But I'm pretty clear with people on this channel that I'm very conservative, and that if you follow kind of what I do, you're going to miss out on certain opportunities. But
right, you kind of, there is definitely something to be said about that. It's literally more enjoyable to invest in a more risky way. And some people might say, my life is relatively short, if that's how you look at life. My life is relatively short, and frankly, I might lose out at the end of the day when I'm 80 years old on X amount of money, but I enjoyed what I did a lot. And sometimes, because like I think I'm similar to you, where like I get like very meh when I'm holding a card that I think is going to drop. Yeah. Like I get very skeeved when I hear people are like, I'm investing my stimulus check and all like the little money I have to do this type of stuff into Pokemon, and like it's in a very volatile market. That's where I get panicky. So like I always advise against that. But if that person has a job and enjoys doing this psycho investing and stuff like GameStop, I call it psycho investing, risky investing, but likes it, like loves the fact that they could get in a GME and tweet about it and get hyped, and they're going to do it again next week with the next thing that happens. Yeah. And they don't go under because of it. That's the only counterpoint.
No, it's a great counterpoint. And it goes to, what are you really? Are you an investor, or are you trying to enjoy yourself?
Yeah, it's a great point. Yeah.
And to be kind of harsh with it, it's and this is such a great
I think people should be more honest though with themselves when it comes to that, because I think a lot of people aren't investors and don't have the patience to be an investor. They buy pieces that are probably good 10 to 15 years, and they're going to lose a lot of money when they're really like a quick flip, and they should be maybe taking more bets, which
we're not financial advisors here, but
I'm not. I'm 21, so don't listen to me.
don't listen to me either. I don't have a license for that. Uh, but yeah, for me, it's Warren Buffett and Elon Musk sort of. Elon basically came out and said that Warren Buffett is boring and what he does is really boring, and I don't want to do it because it's not fun, something like that. And
right.
Elon is a huge risk taker, and in my opinion, is a bunch of hot air and nonsense combined with like some interesting potential substance, some of it which I don't understand, some of it which I don't even think exists, and I think is just all part of the show, and the brand. That's just my personal opinion. It doesn't mean that much.
Okay.
I'm just a random guy watching all of it.
Sure.
But yeah, and uh, uh, whereas to me, people like Charlie Munger, these value investors who just sit there and are so obsessed with the game of picking the correct thing that they're willing to just sit there and do all of like I, for the first 2-3 years, I had all of the pop reports, all of the price history memorized. So if you, right. So I have all of the analytics inside of me. If you ask me a question on anything, I could tell you exactly what I could tell you how quickly it's been rising, how quickly it's been falling. It isn't sexy.
No, a lot of people would never do that.
Right. And for me, it was enjoyable.
Right.
Which is what makes me weird on some level. And I think for people like Warren Buffett and people like Charlie Munger, that process of knowing the ins and outs of everything about a company and studying all the numbers and the analytics is enjoyable in some weird way. But I think that understanding, like, are you that type of person who's going to sit there and know all of that? Or are you going to go on more of like feeling and instinct and momentum investing and growth and what you really believe in at the end of the day? I mean, I think that people believe that their intuition's right, and they believe that they have feelings about things, and then when they're right, they brag about it, and then when they're wrong, they forget about it
under the rug.
Exactly. So, and I see that a lot right now with a lot of people's favorite, not to name any more names, but a lot of people, not in the Pokemon community, but just like favorite, like hot investors right now, where it's this weird thinking of not actually analyzing the reality of like where they've been right, where they've been wrong, looking at short-term price history, everyone just wanting to be right all the time rather than analyzing the other side and understanding like why they're missing it. But yeah, it's a really interesting time in all hobbies and in the stock market, this whole like value investor versus momentum investor type battle, and to see who's going to make the most money at the end of it. Because putting it all aside, it's like if that's your goal, we'll have to see who does best in the long run.
So. Yeah. But I guess kind of what I was saying though is like a lot of people, whether or not they know it, I think they actually do value the fun of the riskier type of investing.
Yeah, I think that's
how valuable is that?
That's a big problem in terms of it being the better investment strategy, is that a lot of it is it's the riding high on the emotions of trading a lot, of buying and selling a lot, of the high of all of that stuff, rather than that slow, methodical, I buy one out of every like 150 things I watch. Like, how fun does that sound?
Not very fun.
It takes a lot of patience. And for me, it's fun.
Right. Exactly.
And that might sound super weird, but for me, all part of the fun and enjoyment of finding those deals, of doing that sort of thing. I have friends who are sort of in a similar level of me in the Pokemon community, in terms of experience, and they just like buy things like, quick still, so a lot of it's
sure.
Thing.
Yeah.
But
and they love it, I'm sure. Like that's what they lived for, right? And they're even if they made $1 million more following your strategy, I actually think it, not even completely out of the realm of money, maybe it's just better for them, which is it's a whole different topic. But
yeah, that's definitely an interesting idea. And two, it's better in growth periods, because the more that you buy, even if you're buying, even if you're making really stupid purchases, because relative to other things, everything is going up so much.
Sure. So
And
you
if you're
kill the
too
buy periods.
conservative, yeah, if you're too conservative and not in the market, like Warren Buffett was, because he kept so much cash, because he was being patient and looking for a good deal, and everything has just seemed so inflated for him for so many years. He's missed out on so much of the growth
Yeah.
based on the
Yeah, I
stimulus.
totally believe that.
Or someone like, Kathy Wood from Mark Invest is betting on not real earnings or anything, but this future idea of the potential of these types of companies, like with Tesla, to take over autonomous driving, and that's going to be the wave of the future, and that Tesla's going to take a huge market share of that, and that's going to be, and it's like, absolutely could be correct, but it's to me, it's a huge risk, huge gamble. Wait to be, I don't see
Yeah,
that.
yeah. It makes you uncomfortable, I'm sure.
Yeah, and that type of investing, and her getting on the news and telling everyone that these things are amazing, and then seeing a stock go up 20% in one day, yeah, that makes me pretty uncomfortable. That shows me that it's a bunch of nonsense, and that people are just speculating. And
I agree, because I'm like on the same level as you.
Yeah.
But I've thought about it more and more as of late, which is like seeing the value in being part of the group. Like my whole life, I've always been like a very like, be careful about the herd mentality, like be on the outside. But sometimes that gets kind of lonely, and like honestly though, I kind of mean that. Like, I know it's like,
that's interesting.
It's like going off the topic of like what this channel is usually about, which is like, how do I maximize? But at the end of the day, we're social creatures. Yeah. And if you're not, buying evolutions or base set at this point in the time, and then things fade off, you might not get to be part of that up and down. And, for someone like you and I, it doesn't really matter. Like, I don't really care that I missed out on base set, but for someone else, that could be really disappointing for them. And
yeah, I think something I said early on to people when they were asking sort of for my advice and my perspective was, be very real with yourself and understand, like, this isn't just about investing. It's also about owning pieces of your childhood. And if you miss out on these cards because they get too expensive, because things keep inflating up, how bad will you feel? And is it worth, and even if I think that you shouldn't buy at this price because I think that it's too risky and I don't think it's a good investing strategy,
sure,
there is definitely a chance it'll double again in price. That was something I always said as prices continue to go up, because I understand when markets go crazy, things can double and triple quickly. Like prices can soar, particularly for rare items, in very short periods of time. And nobody really knows where they're going to settle or how long it's going to take to settle. And to go to your point, it's owning that card is also a life experience. And so is it worth taking on more risk than you might normally would to own the card? And so that's the type of advice I would give there, because at the end of the day, this is also about collecting and enjoying yourself and having those experiences with the community. For me personally, I don't feel like
you don't. Yeah.
I don't feel like I missed out on like being part of like the modern box growth and like the excitement around modern boxes. Like I've never had that thought. Maybe if I thought about it, I'd feel that way.
Right.
But I guess in part because I've been in the insane growth and like all these other hobbies that I've been buying. I think if I had been just sitting with all my money in cash and I hadn't put it into anything, I might feel differently. That would be more of that challenge of, and my dad as a value investor has really struggled with this for a long time, is, when he misses out on these huge,
the 4-5x randoms.
Yeah, because he did that assessment and it just didn't make sense to him. How do you stomach the fact? And it goes back to this idea of like, do you judge whether you're right or wrong? In what window do you judge whether you're right or wrong financially, from the financial perspective? And then also something my dad talks a lot about is, to get to your points about the quality of life. Like, does the type of investor you are respond to the type of personality you have and make you be able to sleep at night? So for me, if I owned really risky purchases, it would be much harder to sleep.
Agreed.
For someone else, it might be like, they might not be able to sleep because they wish they were in it. You know what I mean? Because of that FOMO.
It's hilarious. Yeah, for sure.
Because I think that's kind of what you're saying. It's like
evolutions might go up tomorrow.
Yeah. It's like, for me, it's like, if it goes up, it's a bunch of not like it seems completely untethered And I felt that
Yeah.
way about the vintage cards going up too. So this isn't, it just feels like this whole year there's been so much rampant, random pricing and speculation.
Yeah, I mean, when you say that you bought vintage 10s for $10, I
Yeah.
hear that, I'm like, this market's insane. Either this market's insane or that market was just so underdeveloped. I mean, both
Yeah,
likely.
both. I mean, for me, I mean, I was looking at those things, I was buying, in terms of like PSA 10s for like $10, $12. The only ones that were like 10s, the only ones that were like really just $10, $12 that were PSA 10s were like common uncommons, first edition cards.
Okay.
The hollows, a lot of them were like $25 to $45 in PSA
That's
9.
still though.
In
Oh,
PSA
nine. Okay.
in 10, most of them were like the worst ones were probably like $50, like the fossil muck or something in
Mhm.
PSA 10. And then the best ones were outside of first edition base were
Okay.
probably
That
like
actually makes
not
a lot
including
more
the
sense.
shinings.
Because
Yeah,
I'll
we're
be honest, when you said
probably
that in the past, I don't know why when I heard it, I actually thought were buying hollows, 10s for $10,
no,
$15.
no, 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 no. Yeah,
Okay.
they never would have been graded at all because you people would be basically losing money even if they got.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I'm like, the market must have been here, then it came down.
Yeah. But I was buying like level X's in PSA 9 for like eight, nine, $10. Those had zero market. Um,
Okay.
I was buying those tops in cards like PSA 9 bluebacks for like $10, $12.
That's insane.
Yeah, yeah. That's a market that I've made 50 times on certain cards. Yeah.
God, I hope that day comes.
Yeah,
But
it's stupid.
it's insane. Yeah, that's ridiculous.
But yeah, it becomes when you are first to market. Like I was really the first to market in Top Zone in a lot of ways. I
Sure.
actually saw them being sold for the first time. I probably bought some of the first ones that came to this country in a lot of ways that came over the PWCC.
Mhm.
In a lot of ways, I was first to market there. I was first to market in Level X because I was able to build it like a 20% position of the cards, 20% position in these two things. And when you're first to market of something that really explodes, that's the type of growth that you can see.
Sure. Sure.
When you're coming into something that's already been built,
Yeah, you're not gonna have that.
probably not, or there has to be some like radical shift. Uh, but yeah. So I don't know. Whenever I'm making these videos too, it's like I just hope that people do. I feel these two things, right? I feel the one hand of like this arrogance, probably of like I probably have more knowledge of this. I've probably done this longer. I've probably made more money than
Sure.
you. I have a bigger collection. Not you specifically, but the
Yeah,
audience.
yeah.
Like my instincts, my thoughts, my understanding of this is probably right. Please listen to me. And then I have this other voice of like, um, what the hell do you know? It's probably all random luck. Like you're probably way
Yeah,
ahead of
for
your
sure.
skis. Don't tell people what to do in general. Like that's bad code in general and annoying. Like
Right,
even if
right.
you are very knowledgeable, like keep your mouth shut. Um, let people
Sure.
make their own decisions. That's a big thing with me is agency and not criticizing people and like letting them make. So it's a weird thing. I don't know if you experience some of that stuff or on your.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think it totally feels that way. I honestly sometimes life in general feels that way.
Yeah.
For me, I think like it's a personality type where some people are very, very when something good happens, they attribute it all to themselves and they're very confident that it's a pure result of what happened, um, based on what they did.
Yeah.
And then where I come from most of the time, even just like literally like I don't have sympathy for everyone necessarily, but
Mm.
like when someone struggles or they make a really bad decision in the Pokemon market, or for instance, what I was saying earlier, you take the person who is struggling to live week to week, they barely can pay their bills, and yet they're going to spend their stimulus on Pokemon. You can take two avenues. You can tell this person that they're an absolute fool and they must change now, or you can look at it and be like, wow, okay, their parents led them the wrong way, and then their parents led them the wrong way, and then there's parents, and you go down the line until literally Adam and Eve, like that argument, right? um And so I feel the same way about like talking to people about investing. It's like I could tell you I was right about evolutions, and I can give you the reason that base set was getting hyped, the market was getting hyped, and I can say I was right. Or it could just be complete luck. And like I got really lucky, right? And everything else went up.
Yeah, I mean, I still think people are wrong about evolutions.
Sure. Sure.
And, I'm
Yeah.
hanging on to this idea that, first of all, you could have made more of a percentage in a few other places, although that's really become less true as evolution started to go up. When people were talking about at 400 that they were like brilliant, that they bought evolutions, I was like, the cards I was buying while you were buying those things have like 10x. But then when it went to 10, I was like, whoa.
My surfing Pikachu, I bought it for $1. It's now $10.
Those types of things are insane. Boom. So listen, I mean, again, it's sort of like, it depends on your time horizon, right? I mean, we'll see what happens. We'll see if it crashes all the way back down and people didn't sell, then that's one thing. If, but yeah, I don't know. At some point I should probably admit that I was really wrong, but not there.
We'll see in a couple of years. Yeah.
I'm still waiting for it to crash. If I will tell you this, if evolutions and a lot of those booster boxes hold their value for the next 2 to 3 years, I will admit that I'm wrong, that I was wrong about them. Even if they don't even have to go up. Because my perspective is they will go down, not even hold.
I mean, I think so too, but I don't think it's going to be up by a percentage. Like if I had to guess, right, this is a guess, but if I had to guess, I would guess that the percentage is going to be somewhere around 30%, 30 to 50% max, in which case for some boxes it's really not that drastic. Like an evolution's going down by 50%. If you got in at the beginning, which I know most people haven't, well, not most people, I'm sorry, a lot of people haven't, then you're still fine, right? And like if your goal is to hold long term, then maybe it will eventually get back to 1,000 in 10 to 15 years, maybe. So I don't see it going down by, I don't know what you think, but
which would be a terrible investment if it took you 10 to 15 years to make back just your money.
Well, no, I'm saying if you bought it at 100, right? Like,
but you should sell it at 1,000 now if you really think that. Like you should be holding.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, let's say it goes to 2,000 then, just to back up the argument, right? It goes to I don't know, 2,000.
I mean, and then I can throw it on you, man. Why aren't you selling your product if you've made 10 times your money on it and you think that might happen? But that's a whole, we don't have to get into that.
I had 50 Kanto boxes. I'm still holding them.
Yeah. So, and my answer is that if prices go down, I wonder what's going to happen in terms of the panic and the flooding of the market of those things.
I'm super curious too.
But because we really haven't seen big retraces on anything yet.
No.
We saw it on unlimited base in some of the first edition commons and uncommons, and they in a week lost 2 weeks lost 80% of their value.
I mean, I think the Charizard lost what, 150% more.
It went from 6,000 to 1,500 roughly at the bottom.
Right.
The EV, the first edition jungle EV PSA 10 went from 1,000 to 100.
Right, so crazy. Now it's actually back up, right?
Yeah, it's definitely above 100. I think you're
at like 300
in a video, right?
Yeah,
no, 300. Oh, I was seeing it like 150, 200. Is it back up now? I know the Charizard's back up too a little bit, maybe hovering more around the 2,000, 2,500 point. I'm not sort of watching every day. It's funny, before I started this channel, I knew the market better than I know it now.
Yeah, same.
Because I was so much buying so much more, and I was so much more active in it. Now I like, a lot of the reasons I look at the market is just for the channel.
You know what? It's really the same thing for me. I could have told you evolutions only because I'm so into evolutions, but everything. Yeah. I don't know anymore. Like I do it for a video.
Are you checking the EV?
Yeah. So the jungle EV one sold on March 7th for $380 bid. PWCC auction EV $400 PSA 10.
Oh yeah, you're right. It's definitely come back. Yeah, so crazy. Yeah. Oh, looks. A lot of. Looks like someone's buying them all out. There are a lot of bids. Huh.
What do you mean?
Oh wow! Like there's just a lot. There are a lot of them that are being bought out and then relisted at higher prices. Interesting. I wonder if it's the same ones being relisted. This is the type of stuff, guys, that I would be looking at if you're interested in
Oh,
this, is
is it?
looking to see if people are buying them out and then relisting the same cards. These are the kind of pro tips to, if you're willing to put in the work. It goes back to the
I see what you're saying.
like how many people actually do that? I don't think that many.
I'll give you 0.1% of the community.
Which is crazy to me that people are throwing in thousands of dollars and don't do that. It takes 3 minutes to just quickly check to see.
I will say that though, EV's EV. Do I think it's $400? I mean, I've gotten some of these cards for free, right? In mint condition, pack fresh.
Yeah, of course.
So
Rhyme Style has talked to me, and I reached out to Rhyme Style once, and I was like, what do you do with your like common, uncommon Neo cards? Because I was still looking for some of them to grade in PSA 10. And he was just like, oh, you can have them for free, man. First of all, he's like the nicest guy ever. But a lot of people give them for free, or particularly back then, because there wasn't as much value in these things. So yeah, these things are, they're people open in packs. There are more coming on the market. I have friends who are sending in 50, 100 of these. Probably 80% will come back 10. Oof. But I was a big investor and collector in these and so a lot of my friends were really negative on these because they knew how many they had and how many they were going to grade. I'm big on, this is the first ever EV.
I was going to say, you're the first appearance guy. That's your label.
Yeah. And so for me, it's like, I think the market, as long as Pokemon stays hot, I could see the market absorbing 10,000 of these easy.
Really?
At 10.
In a 10 for 400? For how much?
Then what do people think is going to happen to Shining Fates? If people aren't bullish that EV card can 10,000 can be held after 20 to 30 years, what are people thinking with Shining Fates and Evolutions? Because I can tell you, Evolutions, Shining Fates, and Hidden Fates is going to have more than that.
Yeah, if the prices get there. Yeah, 100%. The only thing I'll say is, though, now that this hype came up, it's coming up during these modern sets, so it's what people might care about, which actually that seems crazy. Like, I don't actually think it's that crazy, actually. It's like, why do people like base sets so much? It's what they grew up with. I'm gonna want to open Evolutions more than base set in 10 years, and I'm actually quite confident saying that because I like the reverse holo so much. Yeah,
that's fascinating.
I've opened base set packs, and I'm 100%.
If they were the same price, you would rather open Evolutions than base set.
If they were the same price?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have no connection to base set.
Okay, fair enough.
That's
phenomenal. That's phenomenal to me.
Come from the perspective that, like, when I'm making content, I'm making videos, and I'm opening these packs, I have a connection to these cards. I sat down, I opened 4 Evolutions booster boxes, and it was a great experience in my life. I really enjoyed it, which is why I was so bullish on it. I'm like, this set's so fun. I can get a reverse holo Charizard that's rare. Even in a green code pack, I'd be like, green code, I still can open it. It's still fun. Yeah. Right? And in that green code pack, I can get a Surfing Pikachu or Flying Pikachu or a Maki's Duo or the Eggplant, whatever his name is, Executor. Yeah. And like, I'm like, I like this set. And that's one thing I feel like they should do with other modern, the current modern sets, which is put cards in the uncommon slots. Because when I open packs, I literally don't look at the uncommon slot. Put like a 1 in every 36 packs, 1 in every 72 packs, uncommon card. And it will make it a bit more fun. And I think Evolution's had that, and it's underrated. Yeah.
To me, it's like, would you rather open garbage or your childhood?
Don't call my Evolutions boxes garbage. Take that back.
But for real, my actual feelings, like, to not joke too hard on it, is that when I opened a few boxes of it. I didn't like it immediately, to be completely honest.
Why?
I didn't hate it, though.
But why?
I wanted the Mega Charizard. That was the one I was looking for.
Full art.
Because I already pulled the Charizard as a kid. And because when I saw the Charizard, and I actually pulled a couple Charizards, when I saw them, I was like, these are fake. I have a real one.
Gotcha.
That's immediately what my mind said.
Mm-hmm.
And they weren't worth a lot.
Gotcha.
The most expensive card was the Mega Charizard, the full art.
I've heard that.
Okay, so what happens, and this goes to that price memory and that price feeling of like, now I think people are when they open Evolutions, they're getting connected to the Evolutions Charizard because the Evolutions Charizard is now expensive. So we didn't have that.
Yeah, I mean, think if Vivid Voltage Hollows in 50 years become valuable. I mean, I will look at that and say, this is, I can't curse, but this is like absolute buffoonery,
Yeah.
right? Like, why is this Hatterene Hollow from Champion's Path worth more than $1, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So the question is that, you know, if 90% of the market is new and 90% of the market is
Yeah.
seeing these higher prices, will
Right.
that make it that these prices do have a much more staying power than if it was 50-50 or 60-40? And I think there's a good argument to be made there. I think the counter argument is that so much of this is driven by people who are going to not be here in 6 months to a year.
Sure. I can see that. Yeah.
So even though it might be 90-10% right now, the 10% who have been here are going to stay here and be the core and have the most money.
Yeah.
And it's going to shift back to that, but it'll be interesting to see.
Maybe, yeah, maybe. But there's so many people. You know, the amount of people coming in right now is obviously insane. I mean, you can't find anything. Literally, you can't find anything. You have to actually think about how crazy. Like everyone has to think about how crazy that literally is. I mean, Rebel Clash, $4 a pack. You can't find it at a store. Makes no sense from where but it's happening. So like the odds that a percentage of these people aren't going to stay in the hobby, like these kids opening this and stay in the hobby and be connected to it, seems insane. Like that.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure how many kids are opening right now.
I don't think so.
As compared to kids at my age. I
okay.
No, I actually don't
less.
Know.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure. I genuinely don't know. I'm not even sure really how to gauge that.
Yeah.
That's sort of a wait and see for me. I think it's possible. And then how many is like, I just refuse to believe, and I may just end up looking like an idiot, and that would be completely fine. But I just refuse to believe that people are paying this much money for Pokemon because they like Pokemon cards this much. I just
no, I don't think it's. Yeah, you're right.
I just don't see it, and that might just because I just don't like it that much, and people are just like they need to open Pokemon cards, but yeah, for me it's just like, why are you spending double over retail like immediately on something? I just, unless you think you're going to flip it for more, or you're going to open it and you're going to make content, you're going to make money off of that, or you're growing some other way. Yeah.
But at the same time, I mean, like, I understand there's the rarity aspect of vintage.
Yeah.
But let's say I put someone who doesn't care about Pokemon at all. They're going to say you're just as stupid as the modern people.
Yeah, the thing about the vintage is the rarity.
No, I know, but what if they don't care about it? They're just going to look at it regardless of rarity. Why would they ever care if they think Pokemon is just completely useless, right? They're going to say, just because it's more rare, it's just a piece of cardboard at the end of the day.
But we don't need them to like it ever. Whereas they are either going to need us or they're going to need enough people, a lot more people, because there's so much more of it. So for me, it's like, first of all, I don't really believe them. I think they're just hyping their own cards. I think in a lot of cases, a lot of the pro modern anti-vintage stuff is just because people have modern, and I just don't believe them. I think people are hyping their own stuff for various reasons. Two, there's always going to be more modern, and there's going to be the new shiny set, the new thing that people are going to chase instead of this stuff. And I'm not sure how many people are going to be connected to any of these sets versus the newer versions. I think that's a good point. Yeah. To be seen. There'll be more and more competition, and there's going to be so much supply somewhere down the line. There's going to be so much more supply. And yeah, I just think that there's so many things that are going to be similar to these sets, whereas there's never going to be other Wizards of the Coast. I think that the Wizards of the Coast market was built in a much more fundamental, real way than these modern markets are being built in the short term. Mm-hmm. I think that there's much more of a established, significant, real price floor on the vintage that doesn't exist on the modern. I think the modern has no price floor. I think the modern could go to zero, like actually. Mm-hmm. I think the booster boxes could go under retail in modern. Yeah. Whereas I think that the way that the vintage market was built, I don't see those booster boxes going below like $5,000, $4,000, $3,000, like a lot of those vintage ones. Now that would be a huge fall, right? These $20,000 boxes going back down to $3,000, $4,000.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
But I trust those prices. I don't trust any of these modern prices.
I think it's.
I don't think it's going to happen. But let me just say,
Yeah. Okay.
I
Okay.
don't think that's going to happen.
Okay. Yeah.
But like in a doomsday, I'm
Sure.
saying
In Doomsday. Okay.
in
Yeah.
sort of doomsday scenario.
Then I agree with you. I was going to say it sounds a bit pessimistic to say that they're likely to drop, but if you're saying
No,
it's not,
definitely not likely.
okay.
But
Okay.
in
Yeah.
my mind, it's like I think that there's an established collector hardcore base
Sure.
in vintage who has the most money, who was buying these cards all along, who've been here for 20 years and who are going to continue to be here, that bought out the floor and that have established the floor, and they're just going to make more and more money. So I think even if no people ever joined the hobby again, you'd see price increases on these vintage stuff eventually.
Yeah.
And you'd see
Yeah.
it come back up. I think that the modern isn't in that boat because there's so much more of it that you need so many more people to stay interested and engaged. And that might happen, right? All the
Yeah.
people
It's
are
tough
coming
though.
out to stay. Yeah.
I mean, it's tough because, like, you know, how many people are talking about Vivid Voltage right now? Very little people. You're going to see very little videos about it, almost no openings.
Already.
Already, yeah, which is a scary thought. And I mean, that's how humans function. Battle Styles is going to take over, and in 3 months, Battle Styles is going to get replaced by, I was going to say Harlem Phantoms, but that's the old set. Whatever the new one is. And yeah, so that is
the frozen set, the ice set, whatever it's called.
You're right, that one. And then that's going to take priority, and so I get that. Yeah, it's always getting replaced for sure.
Yeah.
But tough.
So yeah, I think that the argument that people are going to stay in the hobby, it's just going to continue to grow, it's going to continue to get bigger, there are going to be more generations, and we just need to be positive and bullish, and I love modern, and so I'm going to buy it and hope it goes up, is completely reasonable.
Yeah, I think so too.
You know, but I think that it's where you get the like modern is vintage, and I'm gonna retire and have $1 million, and where I see people buy like $500 PSA 10 like hollows from just like modern sets, like not even rainbow rares.
Oh yeah, I
you know, because there's
that
only
scares me too.
Yeah, it's
I wouldn't buy them either. Yeah.
I was watching this this like Facebook live stream of people buying like people bidding on like slabs, people just throwing slabs up and then bidding on them.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh my God, the prices people were paying for things. And
give an example if you have one.
Yeah, let me think of like some of the crazy prices. I mean, even just like people were buying like PSA 9 Neo Destiny like common first edition cards, like the Asida, or like maybe it wasn't Asida. There were some like PSA 9 common first edition cards that people were buying for $120, like $110.
Okay.
I mean, and I guess like it's not a first appearance card. It's not that great of an art. It is from Neo Destiny, which is an extremely rare set, but like who cares about, and maybe there are some people who want to complete like the complete Neo Destiny set, but I'm pretty sure people just want the hollows. I don't know. I just like, I watch all these things and I'm thinking to myself, like 100, like how does everyone have so much money? You know?
Yeah, it is crazy. I don't know who has this money.
And maybe it's just Pokemon has exploded so much that everyone, and it's just like lots and lots of normal people who have like decent jobs and they're just putting most of their money into Pokemon, and they'll continue doing it for the next 5 years.
I mean, some of the comments I read on Squeak's video, so he put out a video today, about the stimulus checks, and a lot of people, there's quite a few comments that were like, yeah, I'm putting all of my stimulus check into Pokemon. I'm like, okay, I mean, fine, but there you go.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, what do you think about this? Charmander first edition Team Rocket Gem Mint 9.5 CGC for $117. What do you think about that? The Charmander.
Say that again.
Charmander, it's the Charmander common card from first edition Team Rocket in a 9.5 CGC for 117. Yeah.
9.5 for how much?
117.
117 for a CGC 9.5 first edition. Correct. Charmander from Rocket.
That's right.
Okay. It's stupid.
Why is that?
Rocket is probably the most printed set of any of those sets.
Really?
There's an endless amount of first edition commons and uncommons from Rocket out in the world.
Yeah. Okay.
Those aren't first appearance of those cards. I think that art is okay. I think the Squirtle art's a lot better. So I think if you're making like an art argument, the Squirtle art is like the
The
best.
Squirtle's great. Yeah, the Squirtle's great.
Yeah, it's way overpriced. That card for the next 10 to 15 years until all of them should be graded should probably be worth about $15 to $25 in PSA 9, if I'm being completely blunt.
0.5.
Oh, and this is a CGC 9.5. Yeah. Yeah. So
to be fair, it's like a PSA 10. Potentially,
yeah, so,
potentially,
okay,
potentially, potentially.
So I was thinking PSA 9 in my head. So in a 9.5, in a 9.5 for a PSA 10, I would place a fair value. Like I'd want to get that card for like $30. I would place like a reasonable like 50 to 60 if you're buying it like full price of what I think it should be after the market corrects for all of the cards that I think will be graded over the years.
Yeah.
But the cards may not be graded quick enough to meet the demand. And so if that happens, the prices may never come back.
Right, they might not. Gotcha.
And now that PSA raised their prices, that also might be factored in and raise everything. So you might have to add like $20 because people were sending in for $7 in back in the day in bulk. They were sending these cards in bulk for like the special submission.
Pokemon special.
Yeah, exactly. So times have changed, but I have to tell you, that's when I see those cards, that's what I think still, because I just think that there's too much of that left out in the world, and those cards can stay a 10 in someone's binder. Like the non-hollows, they can survive.
Yeah.
So.
No, I got a bunch of them for free. I got a ton of these Charmanders and Squirtles. I think I sent 3 or 4 of the Squirtles off to CGC. I mean, it's crazy how much money you can make from those cards, and it does make very little sense. It makes very little sense. But
well, they were hyped up by the streamers, by Mizkif and by those guys, and I have nothing against Mizkif.
The comments.
Yeah, he like in all of their videos, like Mizkif and Moist Critical, they were all pulling those and saying they're worth $500 every time they would pull
the comments. Yeah.
And it's like there was zero market for those. No one ever even graded them because there's no market. Like the only market was for the first appearance from like, and there was barely any market even for Jungle and Fossil.
Well, it's funny, but I mean that's like a widespread thing in Pokemon now. I mean, evolutions. If you go on eBay and you type in Charmander, you'll find investment lots of Charmanders.
Yeah,
evolutions, right? So
it's a whole new market that's been created, and in terms of base set too, for those who are newer, base set, the starters were never this expensive. Were never this much more than the other cards. So there's been a whole new movement around the starters. And to go to your point, you like the starters and believe that should have happened.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
I think there's a good argument to be made why the starters are a lot more money because of popularity, but the supply is actually higher on them because they're common cards versus some of like the rare cards that are going for a lot less.
I thought you were saying the other common cards. Okay.
Like in base set in the original, it's like how many Pikachus you pull, a bunch of Pikachus and Charmanders and Bulbasaurs from each box, where you're only pulling maybe one Dragonair.
Sure, the Dragonair fetches quite a high price though, so
it does, yeah. But it's interesting how much those exploded because then this is knowing the price history. The rares were always more. And those Bulbasaur, the PSA 10 Squirtle and Bulbasaur were harder to grade. The Charmander was always easier, so that always had a lower price. And then people started Charmander, and Charmander. When we're talking all base set first edition here, Charmander, those cards were going for like $100 to $200 in PSA 10 for a long time.
Yeah,
and the rares were going for like $300-400 in PSA 10, 500. The Dragonair was even going for more. So, and then what happened is those cards exploded, and that's when I started purchasing all the rares, and I started going heavier into the other parts of base set that I think were being overlooked, and I was selling off, some of that stuff into it.
Yeah.
But to the point we were talking about earlier, though, prices can change. Just because price history was one way, it doesn't mean that the market isn't now going to establish around the starters being much more valuable. And it goes to your point around like, I don't like Charizard. I like Pikachu. I like the Gen 1 Pokemon I like are the starters and Pikachu. And when that happens, it doesn't matter if these cards are much rarer, if there's much more demand for these other cards. So, but I don't know. I think a lot of it is Gary V, and because Gary V was talking about the starters and just people who were coming into the Pokemon space who didn't know anything were being told to buy the starters and that the starters were so much better. And then they saw them going up a lot, and it just kind of
Yeah, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
self-fulfilling thing. But
Yeah. Yeah, I totally get that, but I do feel
yeah,
like if they were the same price as the other cards, I do find that that's a bit weird, especially considering in the early games, I mean, literally for a lot of people, the only Pokemon you used because XP share was quite useless. Um,
they were still
relative,
so they were at $100 ish, and the regular ones were like 30 to 60. The commons,
okay,
like regular
yeah,
commons in PSA 10. So
yeah, but even then,
yeah,
like if I think about how much, like I'm not saying this is what you should base the price on, but I think it's like it kind of makes some sense, which is how much people actually use these Pokemon. I mean, the amount you would use your Charizard compared to your Sparrow,
yeah,
or not Sparrow, whatever it is,
yeah,
Pidgey,
or Pidgey, yeah.
was likely astronomical for almost everyone, besides when he had to fly.
Yeah,
So
not for me, interestingly. I used them all a ton, but
good.
I might be unique. I played the game so much that I tried to beat it with like every Pokemon in every team.
Yeah, yeah. Like I don't think that. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think that's most people.
Yeah, probably not. Probably not. So we should probably end the discussion and we can just hang out and talk, just because we probably
Sure. How long has it been?
we've probably subjected people enough to our to our
Antics.
to our
Yeah.
voices and our arguments.
Yeah. Sorry,
But
guys.
I anyone who listened this whole way through, thank you for you must like us a decent amount.
Yeah. Usually, what I tell people is to comment something, so I know. Yeah, it has to be like a secret. Like,
And I'm gonna say this because I don't think a lot of people are gonna watch this far, but I'll say this too in the subscription. Just please subscribe to Speed's channel. Super great
nice.
guy. Would love for him to get a nice bump from this, hopefully.
I appreciate that.
And yeah, I enjoy your channel. I enjoy your attitude, seeing your new purchases. It's just it was kind of like a breath of fresh air a bit watching some of your videos. So um
Yeah, thanks, man.
yeah, and it's been nice hanging out with you. I'm sure we'll hang out more and
Yeah, no, I hope we talk a lot in the future.
be in touch.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd love to learn a lot from you, honestly.
Well, I feel like I have a lot to learn from you. And I really mean it when I say that I think that I tried to take advantage of the blind spots that I thought that the Gen 1 people had, and I did it with a few cards, but I feel like I still have a lot of blind spots, and I've been so surprised by some of the growth on certain things, and I just
Sure.
want to try to understand why it's happening. And I think people like you who are newer on the scene, who are younger, who are a lot cooler than I am and more connected to like the younger
Yeah,
people who are more have bigger audiences and these sorts of things are
sure.
gonna have a lot of the info and a lot of the intuition that guys like me aren't gonna have.
Yeah,
But
I think even
I
just
can
the
certainly help with the history.
Oh, I believe that. I've learned all the history from you and like ZNG.
Yeah,
But yeah, I mean, I think even just the idea that like someone's favorite Pokemon can be Blaziken and not Charizard is like it literally just opens your mind. Even though you know it's the case,
yeah,
it's not. No one really says it that often that like a Gen 3 starter is their favorite.
yeah,
So it just doesn't, it just doesn't even cross your mind. But like, who knows? 10 years, things could. I don't think things will change, but things will change a little
yeah,
from what's the most popular.
yeah.
Yeah, it's
Definitely something to consider. All
all
right.
right.
Thank you so much, and
It was a
I'm sure
pleasure.
we'll talk again soon.
Absolutely. All right. See you guys.